allegiance, Christie? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, you been working for the railroad or that jacket?
What do you think? What do you think? My father-in-law was an engineer, my brother-in-law was an engineer,
Okay,
my
well.
son worked for the
Wow.
railroad. Yeah,
Sorry, I won't
Steve.
tell that rail.
yeah. No. Nope, that's a good thing. Well, welcome everyone to
I can't
our.
believe he asked you that. but
Oh, no.
Glad you
And-
got such a good sense of humor.
And,
I can't believe I did ask it first.
Either one.
and my grandpa always wore striped bib overalls, so I
Well, I
like
was
those
either
too.
gonna go with the
One or
farm
the other. Thank
the
you.
Oshkoshes or the
Sure.
railroad.
Well, thank you, Steve, for that.
I bet you see the glass half full all the time. Good for you.
Just give me time, Steve.
Good for you. There you go. That's a warning.
Well, there we took care of that. Now we're to the point where we have others who may make public comment or side remarks. We simply open the floor and have at it. Are there any individuals who would like to share public comment at this time? Steve? No? Okay.
I'm good, I'm
You're
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, that's all good. Hearing none, we will move on to our agenda for today. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? Do we have any issues with that?
Madam Chair, I'd move the agenda for today.
Do I hear a second?
Madam Chair, I second that.
Okay, any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda for today, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda has been approved. Now we look at the board minutes from November 16th.
Madam Chair, motion to move the minutes?
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? That was a lot to look over there. I didn't have any questions on that. Okay, hearing no discussion, we will take the vote on approving the board minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and I don't see Brian here, but I believe we have a representative.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Madam Chair, I love these out here.
Well, thank you.
I grew up in overalls like that, so
Did too, I
it
did.
would look great in my closet and on.
That's right, yeah. Take that, Steve.
So Chief Deputy Becky Howell, Meeker County Sheriff's Office. We're here to request approval of the 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant. It's the EMPG grant. And what that does is supplement our grants, which help offset some costs that we've incurred with COVID response, particularly in the jail. Extra masks, extra PPE to cover our staff and inmates.
The 10,842 county matches in our budget.
This has been multi-year grant,
Yes.
right? I mean, this is one we,
Well, this is a supplemental grant that the state put out
yeah.
to help offset some of the costs that weren't covered by the CARES monies.
Okay, so this is separate, okay. Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and recommend approval of accepting the grant.
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
I have a motion with a second. Now, this grant has already been applied for and approved, and it is a match. So the county is responsible for the full 21?
No,
10,842. Yeah,
10,842.
Okay, because when I look on the back sheet, it says award and match. And then on the front for our recommended motion, it says the full 21, but we're just approving the whole amount, but it is a
Correct.
match situation.
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion or questions about the motion? No, hearing none, we will take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And then also, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our deputy that's providing court security now. It's Deputy Ernie DeFreeze. He's been with our agency since 2013, so you'll see him around the courthouse providing security.
Hi, thank you.
Good to have you, Ernie. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
can I, as long as we're on the subject, so Watkins, has Watkins got a new, somebody new up
They
there?
do. Deputy Sandstrom is
Okay.
now the Watkins contract.
Okay, all right. I knew Ernie was up there, so. All right, thanks, Becky.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Diane, I believe you're next on the agenda.
Good morning, Diane Winter from Public Health. And I have one agenda item for your consideration this morning, and that's the approval of the 2022 medical consultant agreement with Dr. Richard Searle. And this is a requirement of the statute 145A, but you'll notice that it's really a requirement of the Community Health Board, but it's delegated to the individual counties to have their own medical consultant in addition. And I would have to say that, given the pandemic, it would have never played out very well if we would have had one consultant across the 3 counties. I had to look back to history. I knew Dr. Searle had been on the board for the advisory committee and served in this role for a long time. I didn't realize it was back in 2004. And I have to say, he's been amazing, not only during COVID, but he always responds so quickly. He's very well informed, very supportive, takes an active role on our advisory committee. He is able to bill for his services, but he's always chosen not to, but there's always room in the budget if he would change his mind or if that would change somehow. So I'm just recommending again that we approve Dr. Richard Searle as the medical consultant again in 2022.
I'll make a motion that we approve Dr. Richard Searle as a 2022 medical consultant for Meeker County Public Health.
I will second that motion. Do we have any discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may, under this agreement with Dr. Searle, we've discussed this at previous board meetings, and the board has approved the agreement as drafted with the insurance limits not meeting the recommendations of MCIT. The board has the authority not to accept the minimum recommendations of MCIT if it's such a burden on the individual that they won't be able to provide these services. We've had that discussion in the past, and it would not be, it would be a definite burden on Dr. Searle here for him to maintain the minimum requirements. He does have some limited insurance on here. He has half of what we're recommending. So, in the past, we have approved it as a county board, so that is something that you may want to have a discussion about.
But it would put a burden on him to obtain the minimum requirements.
Ultimately, I think the option would be, we wouldn't have, I don't think it would be an option for him to be able to get that insurance limit and also provide these services.
I think we've had that discussion every time, and kudos for bringing it up, but I don't think we'll find anybody to serve on the board then if they have to buy that extra liability, and I think it's fine. I think that's kind of how the board has decided in the past when we talked about it. I did have I'm sorry, was that?
No, go ahead.
I just was gonna ask one other question, but it wasn't relating to this, so. So, does Sibley, McLeod, and Meeker each have their own consultant?
Yes, so the only times that the medical consultant for the Community Health Board, because there is a medical consultant for the Community Health Board, because they have to have one by statute, would sign any type of document or provide any services, there was some sort of a 3-county contract or initiative that needed a physician's signature. But everything that we do here locally is signed by Dr. Searle.
So that's a separate person then?
Yes, it's actually, well, it had been Dr. McGinnis out of Hutchinson. I'm not certain if that's the current.
I don't recall the discussion at any of the CHS meetings.
Yeah, it's probably only been the last several years. Probably about the time Ally left, it was identified that we were lacking that and it wasn't aligning with the statute. So she did go ahead and had an agreement signed. I'm assuming it's still in place. with
Maybe we
Kaiser.
should maybe check on that. I can see where it wouldn't make sense though, because like you said, during the pandemic, everybody had different there's so many different things going on according to county demographics, so.
And having Dr. Searle right in town.
Absolutely.
Sometimes things changed within
Yep.
20 minutes of a vaccine clinic and we literally had to run and get
Yep.
signatures and run back.
Anyway, my motion is on the floor, so.
Any further questions or discussion about the motion? Dr. Searle does a really good job. Okay, hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane.
Do you have any COVID reports for us while
Yeah.
you're here, or quickly?
Well, let's see, let me think.
Not trying to put you on the spot.
It seems as though the last several weeks, we've been averaging about 250 to 275 cases in a two-week time span. But that is only confirmed positive antigen tests. So if you do a home test, you're not going to show up. So we know that there's a lot more out there than what is showing on our line list. Booster clinics are going really, really well. A little bit more of a challenge now, but we've worked it out because there's a lot of confusion around what's a booster, what's a third dose. And then we're still getting a few people trickling in to get the primary series. So we have to really screen that out so they get the right amount of vaccine because there's a difference between a booster and a third dose or a booster and a primary series. So staff have worked really well to make certain that we're not making any errors there. No issues really with vaccine supply. I think our biggest challenge right now, over and above that, our 18 plus population is one of the lowest vaccinated populations in the state. We're really not seeing a huge request for even the 12 or the 5 to 11 year olds.
5 to 11.
Met with the hospital last week and then also had some discussions with the pharmacies. Hospital and clinics are vaccinating Tuesday, Thursday. And last week they were planning for around 7 each day. This week they upped it to 15. But they're saying that the demand, it's not like their phones are ringing off the hook or they're getting a lot of requests. The pharmacies are both vaccinating at a similar rate, but again, they aren't really seeing a huge demand. We anticipated that there would be much more demand up front. The hospital did do a weekend clinic and did about 35 children not very long ago. Pharmacies are continuing or considering to do the same. I can't remember which pharmacy. We will be offering staff to them because they know they won't have enough staff if they get a good turnout, so we will be helping staff that. But we decided as a group of vaccinators that at this point in time, we're just going to keep moving forward with our process. I thought we would be vaccinating ourselves and would be getting Pfizer vaccine, but I don't think there's enough demand to warrant it right now. So we're just, and if it changes, we can get the vaccine pretty quickly, but that's probably the biggest update. It's just trying to.
So we don't have another clinic scheduled?
We have a booster clinic tomorrow.
Okay.
A booster clinic next Friday. We took the week of Christmas off and didn't schedule anything because we felt people were not going to be vaccinated and then want to have to deal with side effects during the week of Christmas. And then we're doing at least one clinic before the end of the new year. And then we have about 100 doses of Johnson & Johnson, and we're really going to try and target that to college kids home over the holidays. Don't know what that uptake is going to be, but we're going to try to get out what we can. We have clinics scheduled at least once a week through the second week in January.
So what is your average attendance at a clinic?
Well, we schedule for 100. We've been filling or
You have
close
been.
to filling those. Actually, the boosters are, when I think back to when we were trying to do primary series back in February, March, the booster clinics really fill up pretty quickly. I think, that population that was vaccinated maybe traveled outside of the county to get vaccinated and now want to come here to get their booster, but for whatever reason, those clinics fill pretty quickly.
I got a call from the clinic 2 weeks ago on a Saturday. They had some extra Moderna, because you never know how many they try to squeeze it. If I wanted to take my dad in. He had had his at the VA, so he didn't have his card, he'd lost, anyway. Everything's caught up now into Epic, but he couldn't go, but there was several people in there when I took him in, but I think the boosters, like you said, are going better than. The 18-year-olds are the ones traveling all over, and they're they're the ones deciding not to get vaccinated, so, right? It's, I don't think we're gonna get any better than what we are with, I mean, I hope we do, but I don't see it, do you?
I don't know how else to message.
I don't either. I don't think anybody does, so.
So we're just doing the best. If anybody wants to be vaccinated, we're more than happy to vaccinate them, and we'll provide as many opportunities, but they're really just not beating down the doors like I think MDH and others thought they would be.
Meeker County
Okay.
is, what, are we at 57%, or what was the last statistic I saw? We're the lowest county in the state, was that it?
I just stopped looking.
Yeah.
Because it was just creeping up by increments, and I think the last time I looked, it was 51.7, and quite honestly, I can't tell you if that was last week or a couple weeks ago, and that was 18 plus, I believe.
Yeah.
I will tell you that we had a hospital meeting yesterday morning and understaffed, not enough beds, nowhere to send the ill people, as bad or worse than at first. We have people coming in that we can't get out that normally would get out, and the doctor's working on them and doing wonderful work. But it puts everybody, they're so full of COVID fatigue. We've had to cancel a couple of elective surgeries, not a lot, but we had to move an OB somewhere else. I mean, if people listened to the facts on the ground, Center Care is talking about putting a tent up to put people into triage. I mean, this is a mess, and I don't know what the fix is. It isn't all COVID people that are coming in, but it's very ill people like we've had. And I mean, they tell stories of flying people for a procedure and doing it and flying them back again in the same day, or ambulancing, because so we are fortunate to have the doctors and the nurses that we have, and, pray for them and thank them. But this can't go on forever. Something's gonna give. It just is. The ambulances are getting late on their calls in the big cities because they have to wait sometimes to a half hour, 45 minutes to unload a patient. So then something else is happening somewhere. It's just affecting, and everybody goes, well, it isn't all COVID. No, but it starts with that and it leads into all of these other things.
Last night on the evening news, they interviewed the CEO of a Minnesota hospital. I didn't catch the town, but she said 100% of those who are being admitted to the hospital with COVID were unvaccinated people. 100%.
That surprises me, because I think the figure I've seen is 10, 12% that are vaccinated that go, get a breakout case and end up so sick.
And then 90%
But vaccinated just don't get us sick. I mean, that's just a fact. I think the doctors here would be happy if people would just mask up more in big crowds. I know they'd be happy if the school would do some more masking, and just be careful what you do they're not saying don't get together, they're just saying be careful, mask up when you're in a crowd, but nobody's listening anymore because they're tired too the other way.
I think it's, and to compound it is, the general public isn't going to the doctor, and we talked about that a year and a half ago, and now you really start, the longer you delay that, now when they do go, they are more critically ill,
more serious.
they're requiring longer
course.
stays and hospitalization, where before it might have just been weeks or,
A respiratory clinic, and then we had
So
a Prime West meeting, and it's the same all over. And the nursing homes, that's just beyond, they're closing up, they can't find help. So you have nowhere to send the elderly people. You gotta keep, you have to do everything you can keep them home, but then you have them laying in a hospital because there's nowhere to go, and then they're taking up a bed that a very ill person, you know, like our county hospital, we get paid from Medicare for swing beds, so if we're doing it, we're at least able to charge for so many days. Private hospitals get paid by an occurrence, so if they have an occurrence and an elderly person stays there for 2 weeks, they're getting the same amount of money, so it's not only taking up bed now, it's having a financial effect on people. And they have a bill, or they're doing some, you guys probably heard about it at AMC, they're trying to get some legislation to get some of this surplus to go into nursing homes to pay the nurses, the aides, more money, because you can make more at McDonald's and that can't go on. I mean, this struggle is real, and if we don't do something about it, Paul.
We're seeing that
Yeah.
in all areas
Yeah.
of caring for folks in the community, the staffing shortage and the wages and the lack of strategies to bring people into that profession.
So we had a gal,
It's a bottleneck.
we had a gal at Prime West from Hubbard, 2 of their nursing homes have closed. They think in the next year 30 to 50 more will close. They're sending elderly your parents can end up 500 miles from home if they can even get a bed. And there's no end in sight. And, you know, she said, God bless Walls for wanting to take National Guard people and do it. But here's the problem, you're taking them out of somewhere else then. So then you're just creating another shortage, right? I think we have one right now, maybe in the jail or someplace that, okay, we're already short there. And then if they have to go work for the Guard for a couple months. So, there's no easy answer. I mean, but it's
No, you're-
frustrating, and you gotta keep the healthcare people in your prayers because they're on the edge of, and probably social workers too. Everybody involved, it's hard to watch. It just is.
The challenge that we have is when you're trying to find placement, and you know what you're looking for the individual to kind of move them out of a hospital-based setting, and you're not able to find the staff. And when you have the money and you know what you need to do, and
Still can't do it.
and you just can't make it work.
So if you go to a hospital with an injured person from an accident in the ambulance, and you have to stay in the ambulance, do these people get some support from inside the hospital that come out and assist them in the ambulance, or are you guys on your own?
Usually the ambulance carries them right into the ER. I mean, usually.
Get it.
Well, I know, but I mean, usually the ambulance personnel, it's usually the other way around. The ambulance personnel kind of get you into the hospital.
Right.
There usually is never enough, even in good situations, to have people come out. I mean, that's seldom. It's usually the opposite way around. And we've had twice now in the last couple of weeks that Eden Valley's gone out of our area to pick up patients where that agency wasn't responding.
Because they were busy.
That's, on rescue squad, that I've never seen that before. So we're starting to go outside our area on calls for service that we never did that before.
And you talked about people not going to the doctor, and we heard about Julie Ring's story in her father in Hutchinson not wanting to go out to the doctor, ended up with stage 4.
Oh dear.
Might have caught it earlier had they been willing to go out during the height of COVID, but she hadn't seen them, her brother hadn't seen them, so there's an elderly couple sitting in a house that, no attention, and, so.
I mean, in the future, I'm afraid if this keeps up, that some decisions that aren't pleasant ethically are gonna have to be made. And if everybody's not gonna be happy with that, but then everybody has to get on board here somehow and start doing something. Because, and I'm not telling anybody to have a vaccination. I just wish they would think about it, consult with your doctor, and do the right thing, what you think is the right thing. Otherwise, just put a mask on when you go to a big store. It's not asking a lot.
We haven't, any large operation, we'll call it, whether it be wartime or whatever, you always have to rally the public to be part of the solution.
Yep.
And I don't think we've done a very good job of that in general. You have to empower the regular.
Because everything's
We all want to
become
help.
political.
Everybody wants to help.
Yep.
You have to empower them to want to help.
Right.
And we haven't done a very good job of that politically nationwide, and I think that's what
Because
you're
it shouldn't
seeing.
be, politics shouldn't be
Exactly,
involved. That's
exactly.
the problem, you know, if you wear a mask,
agree,
does that mean
100%.
you're not a concern? No, it doesn't have anything to do with anything, but we're so far gone, and I blame the politicians too, but we're fortunate to have a hospital in our community right now. We just are very fortunate and to be in control of that hospital right now.
Read yesterday's Litchfield paper. There's a thank you letter written by Mr. Binsfield, a business owner here in town. He wrote a lovely letter of thanks to our hospital, medical people here in Litchfield. He had a medical incident, was taken here to our hospital, and he complimented so beautifully the care that he received here. It was a very nice note, so I wanted to bring that up today, and so,
It's good to hear the positive. I didn't mean to get down that rabbit
Absolutely.
trail, but
sure.
now I threw off all our timing, sorry.
And I
it's
got, I
it's
just have
important
one
stuff.
question on vaccines. So if you're fully vaccinated with Moderna, do you have to get a booster from Moderna, or does it can, like, a crossover?
Mix and match.
Okay, I didn't,
And there's some stipulations around timing in that, but basically,
Yeah.
if you've got your primary series from Moderna or Pfizer, in 6 months, you can go back and get Moderna or Pfizer.
okay, I just,
Johnson Johnson's just a little bit different.
that was a question that came
So
up.
are
that I
there
couldn't-
people getting third doses versus a booster?
We've had a handful, but most are coming with a document from their physician stating that they're immunocompromised or for whatever reason they need to have a third dose.
Okay,
Because in
so-
that case, that third dose is part of the primary series still.
So different series with a different ingredient, different
Well,
mixture?
it's the same, so when you get your first 2 doses of Moderna or Pfizer, if you're immunocompromised, the reason for the third dose is they didn't feel like the immunocompromised developed the same amount of antibodies. And so they're giving them just a little extra. to
Okay.
kind of- So it's not a booster, it's trying to get that initial immune response to an appropriate level. So they get the same amount as your first or second dose of Pfizer or Moderna. But your booster, whether it's Pfizer or Moderna, is a half dose.
Okay,
So that's where we have to be very clear about what they're coming for.
but they
because
can mix and match those two. So if
you
I,
mix and match your boosters, yes.
I didn't
And you
realize
have
that.
Pfizer or no?
We do not have Pfizer. We can
But you
get it
can get
quickly.
it.
We can get it, but I don't really want to get it knowing that the pharmacy and the clinics are both vaccinating children, and we don't really have much of a demand. We did do a survey of the Litchfield School District because the superintendent had brought up that maybe an on-site school clinic would be helpful. And I think they had 38 responses. Well, 38 would be interested, that's not 38 that committed. So, what does that mean in terms of, are they gonna be vaccinated somewhere else by the time we get our clinic?
Out of how many potential children
Um,
within that age bracket?
You know, it was a 38.
This would be 5 to 11, right?
Yes, I don't know how they worded the survey, I didn't see the
Yeah.
survey, but now it might have been 68 responses, but either way,
Okay.
when we talked about it, we all agreed, we really need to have at least 50 committed with the amount of time it takes to get the vaccine, get the staff ready, get the right equipment. It just didn't seem like it was appropriate to think that we were going to do a handful. If that's all they need, we can easily work them through the pharmacies or through the clinic.
To the clinic.
And we're not doing any contact tracing anymore.
No.
So we don't know how much this is coming from school and kids taking it home, because they don't get as sick, I don't think.
Well, I can tell you, when you look at the line list, there's always a couple of school-aged kids every day. If you hear from the school nurses, they'll tell you that they have a lot more kids out than what are on our line list, so they're getting tested with a home test, which is fine. But I also hear anecdotally out in the community that they're just, if they get sick, they just know it's probably COVID.
They don't test.
They don't necessarily test, and they don't necessarily stay home. And if it's not in school, it's maybe they're not in school, but they're out doing other things, so again, it's how do you convince
I
people
think
that
we
it's
had a
important?
daycare center in town closed for a week or something.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, people just gotta think about what this is causing here. And so if you have people working for you that have children in daycare and they can't take them, you're gonna be short-staffed for that. It just such a I think we'll look back on this and wonder how we handled this, and I think you're gonna be right, probably not well. Not you guys, I don't mean you guys.
No, no.
But I'm talking as a public,
management.
yeah, we just haven't.
Way up.
Yeah, we haven't,
It's gotta start from the top down
Yep.
and it just,
too many
you
different
gotta
answers
unify the
change.
message and it's just never happened
No,
nationally.
if I had my way, everybody that spoke about it in government would go away and we'd get some new voices coming forward just to start over. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Because,
People have become numb
yeah,
to
so.
that.
And if they think they're tired of it, the doctors and nurses and medical staff and the people that wash the floors and do the laundry and every person in the hospital and clinic is more tired of it, as well as your workers, I'm sure, so.
And if you try to, because I had that conversation with someone recently who was just asking a lot of questions. And I said, maybe you need to go talk to your medical, maybe
Right.
you don't need to see them, but have a conversation.
That's all you have to do.
Understand
Right.
how challenging it is when you can't get staff. The staff are tired, then staff have families, they may be exposed or quarantined or have things going on themselves.
right.
And this is almost 2 years, this isn't just, this little peak, I shouldn't say the peak that we're having right now, we've gone through how many of these, and now we've got another variant out there, so.
Yep.
Well, and every
End in sight, really.
military and even emergency services, you have an R&R period, you have to get people away from it that hasn't happened at all, so you
You're
have
gonna
to,
see a lot of
I
PTSD
mean,
from the
mentally,
first
you gotta get away
responders,
from the
the
situation.
nurses, the
and
doctors.
We're not
They'll
providing
leave this
that.
profession and not come back.
It's already
I
happening.
I
It's
know it.
happening a lot.
It's worrisome. So,
If they're close to retirement or they can swing it,
they're
they
gone.
go. They go.
And then the other side of that is you have people that pick up shift after shift until, they just do. Every company, I think nursing home, hospital is offering bonuses for picking up shifts and you get the same 6, 7 people doing that and then they burn out, so.
And I also understand that, some of the staff within hospitals have opted to take positions with traveling nurses, cause they're making up to $8,000 a week.
Exactly, with
So-
$30,000 bonuses.
Yeah, it's like, you can understand why they're doing that, but that doesn't help us when
No.
they're going to Iowa or California
Exactly.
or wherever to work.
Traveling nurses are now hard to find too, so. Is what it is. Anyway, that was totally depressing. I hope it gets better.
Go home and read your paper.
Thank,
Yeah,
Especially the last 15
Yeah,
minutes of
thanks.
my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Go
Anyway.
home.
Diane was already up
I
and out
know,
of the
I'm
chair.
so sorry.
You called her back.
Thank your staff, do appreciate
I
it.
will.
Always let them know we
Read
appreciate
Mr.
it.
Binsfield's letter.
I'm still shocked Beth said God bless walls.
I don't know if you heard that. Oh, maybe, okay. Never know what's gonna come out of my mouth.
Are we on YouTube? Oh, now.
Well, Mikkel, follow that now.
morning.
Good morning. Great.
Mikkel Johnson, Human Resources Coordinator. I wish I could get us off the COVID topic,
Yeah,
but
really.
we are
Here
going
we are.
right back into it.
Here we go again.
So I guess it's a good segue, if you will. So I am here to seek approval for extending the Meeker County utilization of paid leave due to COVID-19 related reasons policy. So this policy was initially established in January. Then we extended it through June of '21. And then it got extended through the end of the year. So it's currently set to expire at the end of this year. So I'm asking for an extension of that through June. What we basically have been doing is 6 months increments with this. So again, just as a reminder, this policy has 2 primary purposes. It is to expand the reasons that employees can use their accrued leave time to include COVID-19 related reasons such as daycare or school closures, and to offer advancement of leave time to employees who are faced with COVID-19 related issues and they have exhausted their accrued time. So again, as a reminder, they would need to exhaust all of their current accrued time before this would kick in. We have not had any employees that have utilized this policy since it was implemented. However, the reason that it is nice to keep it in place is that, especially especially for new hires, people that have not had the time to accrue any of the leave. It's nice to have that safety net in the event that they do have a COVID-related issue come up.
So, Mikel, the only verbiage change truly is just the dates.
Correct.
And I would just add, this came about, the federal government had the initial COVID response through December 31st of 2020. And then come 2021, we decided to do it in 6-month increments. The EOC committee met, and I believe it was, and we went to 6 month increments, as that way we can adjust or if needed or what have you, so that's kind of the way we've been letting it play out. But this was an extension of the federal government's initial policy.
Madam Chair, move to extend the duration of the Meeker County utilization of paid leave due to COVID-19 related reasons to June 30th, 2022.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Okay. We have a motion, it has been seconded. Are there any questions, any discussion? Did you, let's see, this was revised a year ago. The actual form that employees need to fill out, that's attached at the end here.
Correct, yep. Yeah, like Paul had mentioned, none of the verbiage has changed other than just the date.
All right, any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Mikel.
You don't see Phil.
Mark is here.
Everybody's gone
We have his
today.
representative today. Okay.
Mark Spees, Assistant Highway Engineer, Highway Department. Pinch hitting for Phil today.
Sure.
Just a few things, trying to wrap up the construction season here. The first one is to make final payment to Knife River for the patches on Casas 15, 17, 20, and 3. The patches 15, 20, and 3, they were just 15 was some settlement that was happening around the culvert that we had to repair. It was getting quite bad, but the original 15 project was probably paved at least 10 years ago, so we got a little life out of that one. And the other ones were just failing culverts that we had to replace the culverts and then repave the roads after that. So what we'd like to do is just get that project finalized out, those 4 patches.
It says here the work was satisfactorily completed, that it was done to our expectations.
Yes, it's just little patches. There's not a whole lot to see. I mean, they put in the right materials, and things should take care of themselves.
Mark, on 17 and 24, what, because we just rebuilt that road, was there a little adjustment?
17
It's
and
at the
24,
intersection.
Yeah, we just rebuilt the radiuses up there. That intersection, for whatever reason, they think the radius is not wide enough. So the truck traffic was having a hard time. They're cutting that corner there. So it's kind of a maintenance nightmare trying to keep shouldering in there.
Yep.
Figured if we just paved it, then, we wouldn't have to try to keep
Hold
that
some.
shouldering in place
Okay,
there.
I was just curious, because I know we had just rebuilt that road there, so.
Yeah.
No, it's not a fun intersection there.
No matter what you do, it's not a good intersection.
It's on a curve, and they both come in, and 24 is leaning away, and
It should have been, the whole intersection probably would have been moved, but we didn't get
yeah,
very good approval from landowners out there for that.
all right. Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to move for final acceptance of payment for asphalt patches on CASA 15, 17, 20, and 3.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Any questions for Mark? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and the next one, there's two similar projects. They were both done this past summer. CASA 6 was an overlay from basically in town Dassel out to the where CASA 6 goes south. It's a 1 mile project there. That was a mill and overlay, and that was also done to our satisfaction. And we're looking to get this one finalized out as well.
Well, I sure drove County Road, or CSAH 1, and that is really an improvement on that road. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny, if you drive in a car, you don't really notice it.
No.
If you're a truck driver, you need a hard hat inside the cab. Yeah, we had to do a leveling course bituminous lift on that one, and then the last lift of asphalt to really settle things down there. Wherever culvert was, there was a dip. So when the project was built originally, the clay backfilled over the culvert settled. That created the dip.
Madam Chair, move for final acceptance and payment for SAP 047-606-011 and SAP 047-601-023.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Any questions for Mark? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mary? Good morning.
Mary Spriger, IT Director. I just have one item for your consideration today, and that is approval of a quote from Marco Technologies for the purchase of network backup systems. Our current backup system is over 3 years old and due for replacement. That's a standard amount of time for a backup system is 3 years. The current system that I'm suggesting would be a 3-year solution as well. There's some cost savings that we can take advantage of by switching to Veeam, by utilizing one solution versus a dual solution because of the way that the software works and the licensing is applied. We're able to get approval from CJDN to go to a single system covering both networks. If you look through the quote, there are some hardware and licensing costs, and those are one-time costs of $25,361.11. Then there's monthly costs. The Microsoft Azure is a cloud-based solution, so we have a cloud repository, and that's pretty much the way of the world, is that we're pushing for more and more cloud-based solutions. So that's an add-on that we don't currently have. So that's the $114, and that would be recurring monthly. And then there's a Barracuda upgrade, an extra $2. We do have a Barracuda device that does our filtering and does some management, or allows some management tools currently, and that would be in addition to that, and allow for a better retention for email, a little bit easier for us to restore if there's some errors, and just a better overall solution for email. So adding in those costs, then the total for the project for 2021 cost would be $25,999.11. And then those recurring costs next year would be paid from the IT budget. So there is $30,000 approved this year in the budget, IT budget under capital projects, and there is about $10,000 in maintenance agreements in next year's budget as well.
So the Barracuda monthly reoccurring is a updates monthly or just maintenance on that system?
It's just the service charge, a monthly service charge for a backup of email,
Okay.
and it's paid per mailbox.
Oh, per mailbox?
Yep.
So that can fluctuate if we had more mailboxes or less?
Correct, it's $2 per mailbox per month.
Okay, that is fine. And then the Azure, or if I'm saying that right,
I say Azure, but
the 114 for cloud.
yes,
Okay, so we have a cloud backup. Do we also have a hard copy backup?
we do,
Okay,
yes. And that would be the hardware that starts the initial part,
okay.
so.
So the cloud basically just gives you access no matter where you are if you needed to restore something.
There's a couple different reasons to go to the cloud. You don't need quite as much hardware because you're not having dual backups. But then there's also disaster recovery if something would happen to the hardware or the entire courthouse, let's say, those kind of things. So the cloud-based solutions are looking a little more towards disaster recovery.
So for $114, just how big a cloud do we get? Do we get a whole sky or just, you know, a couple of floating clouds here and there?
Whatever we need, and right now, this system is set to, it's about 65 terabytes, and we put all the licensing and everything on it, we would take advantage of about 40 terabytes of data, so.
Is that $10,000 continuum maintenance agreement, is that in your budget already for
next year,
next year? Was that already in the budget?
yes.
Okay.
And that's about what we're paying each year for maintenance, or we had been for Unitrends, so.
Okay, so it's kind of it's basically a wash. Okay, that was my question. I didn't know if that was 10,000 additional from where you are now. Okay, thank you.
I'm not so much questioning the cost, I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we do pay a lot of license fees, we do pay a lot of
That's
maintenance
always-
fees, we do pay a lot of our software, and so our IT expense is far greater than I think we realize sometimes.
Unitrend system that we put in 2018 was $69,000 for comparison. Veeam is much more cost effective. I believe it's an excellent solution for us, but it is a little more cost effective as well.
Good.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a quote from Marco Technologies LLC for the purchase of a VM backup system and enhanced Barracuda system.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Excuse me. We have a motion. It has been seconded. Do we have any additional discussion? Any questions for Mary? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, Barb, you can.
Oh,
She's wanting to jump in.
she wants,
I think we have to, because it's almost 9:30 and we're bringing those two gentlemen in online, so.
Yeah, Kel just signed it, so, you know, this IT stuff gets me,
oh, and expensive. Goodness.
Oh, there's so many.
We have folks
and
coming
no
in. I'm gonna
fault
grab a
of
quick
IT
cup
people.
of
They
coffee.
speak
Oh, no.
a different language than we do.
Guys want?
I know, it's crazy.
You want coffee?
There's 6 different names for.
Are we gonna just jump
Same
into
brand.
I know,
You know,
exactly, and
from
it's
a
just like,
different
you gotta be an
company.
IT person, you don't get it.
wanna go right into the hearing?
Yeah, the 9:30 here.
And when they speak to you, you stand there and you look at them.
I know.
Yeah, you're right, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Sad part is they look at you like you're supposed to understand.
Yeah, I know.
I couldn't even think. You can.
Kale, can you hear us?
I just draw a blank. I got Mark with me. Thank goodness I had his.
Yes, I can, Andrew. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent.
So that is fun. That is fun. So thank you. You're not a coffee drinker, Danny?
No, I'm not.
But I bet you're a bread eater. You bet.
Sometimes,
Oh.
actually.
Just want
Not
that
as that
PDF
much
up.
of a bread either.
Well,
Think.
Well,
I'm
this
kinda
kind
almost-
of bread I
Oh.
really like. This I really like.
As Joel was.
Yeah.
Just can't.
I thought we gotta have a little treat to
Yeah.
celebrate our anniversary.
Yeah.
Well, that was this is what,
That's our anniversary. Tomorrow is the actual date
it is,
for your
picture, huh?
taking of the vows.
Vows.
Oh, we exchanged vows in the basement, yeah.
Oh, my.
Well, good morning, Barb.
All right, Joe's here now too.
So you should have both Gail and Joe who is joining us here shortly, and I believe we're making connections for the major public.
Okay, so we are moving forward in the agenda to where we need to recess and reconvene. I would like to recess the county board. Are we ready? Should I do that now, or
Well, wait for Beth to come back.
wait? Oh, okay,
She had to make a phone call, she
okay.
said, so.
We'll have a little piece of bread. Help yourself. Help yourself. Yeah. Breakfast was a long time ago.
Breakfast.
Breakfast. Okay, I've got to get this organized here.
Julie, are you going to go to the snowmobile and these gentlemen and do Paul? Are you okay with that?
Should we do that? Sure.
So when we're done with the public hearings, so that these guys can have to wait.
And we'll do the snowmobile ones. That's here. So we're gonna do ditch first. Okay, and this one
You
will
weren't
go.
here, Steve, Andrew said he decorated his tree.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-oh.
No.
No.
He goes carrying this into the elevator, it's, what, about 3 feet above your head?
Got caught in the door or what?
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Okay, this is what we're going to deal with now.
Do whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, I would like to at this time recess the county board and convene as county ditch authority. And I will turn discussion over to Barb.
This morning, we are continuing the County Ditch 15 public hearing. We have online Joe Lewis and Cale Van Hogen. And I believe, Cale, you probably want to open with comments, and then we will go to Joe so that he can do the presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Chair Bredesen and members of the Drainage Authority.
Thank
You might remember that we noticed and held an initial public hearing on the redetermination or reestablishment of records, for County Ditch 15. At that public hearing, you took comments and questions from the public, and at the close of that public comment period, you moved to continue that hearing to today's date and directed your engineer and staff to further investigate a comment that was raised by Mr. Dahlman about the alignment of branch 6. And you can see on your screen now that there's a map of that branch 6. And what's going to happen today is your engineer and your staff have completed their investigation. They're going to report to you on the results of that investigation. Following their report, if there's questions from you for staff, you can ask those as a board. If there are members of the public and the chair wants to open the floor again for public comments, the chair may do that at her discretion. And then following that, if it's appropriate, I do have some draft findings in an order that I can walk the board through. So with that, Madam Chair, is there any questions from you or members from the board about procedure or why we're here today?
Any
For me.
questions?
No.
Any questions for Cale? I think we're ready to proceed. Cale?
Okay, Madam Chair, then I think we should turn it over to our engineer, Mr. Joe Lewis, to report on that investigation.
Okay, thank you, Cale, and members of the board. What I have today is just a handful of slides to walk through change in the recommendation for the length and extents of branch 6 in the made to the draft report that was, or not draft report, to the report delivered earlier this year. So what I have shown here is a screen capture or a portion of a document that was provided by the Drainage Authority at the start of this process. it is as you can see, a map showing the location and extents of the system. And this was a figure that was prepared during the original establishment proceedings. And the arrow points out the extent of branch 6 as 700 feet in length. It's not really clear from this image where that endpoint is, but we do have alongside with this figure a written description of the orientation and length of the branch 6 as it's shown on this figure. And that very clearly says 700 feet in length. Okay, so that was the basis for the previous recommendation of the branch 6 length. And now the following slides, I'll walk through a couple other items that, when we went back and checked those documents, of which there's about 300 documents, we did find some additional information regarding the length of branch 6. So before moving on from this image, I want to just give us some additional bearings and orientation of where we're at. So you see that Collinwood Lake is on the right-hand side of the screen, and then we have the branch 6 there towards the center of this section. So this is section 12. And the label is there right there in the middle of that larger square. So we have 4 quarter sections. Branch 6 is in the southwest quarter of section 12. The main trunk goes on the northern edge of that southwest quarter. And then branch 6 is entirely within the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter. So I have some additional images here later just to kind of reiterate that, but it's important as we look through these next slides. So if you go to the next slide, we see a aerial image from 1938. So we can see that branch 6 extended beyond that 700 foot in length in this 1938 photo. So that's generally 30 years after the system was created. So it's not uncommon for ditches, private ditches, to extend past public ditches, okay, to drain additional lands. Okay, so in the original recommendation and development of the engineer's report, we made the assumption that that was a private ditch, and the public ditch actually ended at 700 feet, at that 700 foot mark. Okay, so now the next slide is just a zoom in of the same image where we can see it a little bit more clearly. So we're looking now more or less at that southwest quarter of section 12. Okay, next slide. So now this is where things get interesting. This is one of those 300 documents that we went back through, and this is a scanned copy of a published notice or summary of proceedings from the special session of the board that occurred on October 5th, 1904. So this is within the order establishing the drainage system, and the right-hand side shows the entire document that we have. Okay, and the green highlighted box there on the right, kind of midways through or third ways down of that scanned newspaper clipping, we have a statement that was a resolution adopted by the board on motion during that hearing. So it says that a release of claim for damages to be obtained from Swan Ballman and Lars Olsen and their wives, giving perpetual rights for this construction, for the construction and maintenance of extension to branch 6, number 15. Okay, so that says pretty clearly that branch 6 was extended. So presumably it was extended past that 700 feet originally planned or proposed. Okay, so the names Swan, Ballman, and Lars Olsen are important here too, because the summary doesn't say how far it was extended. But if we look at the next slide, which is a excerpt from the original viewer's report, we see that Lars Olsen owns the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter. Swan Ballman owns the other 3 quarters within that southwest quarter. Okay, so on the next slide, I have a image to kind of tie this all together. So this is the southwest quarter of section 12. Okay, so Lars Olsen gave the rights to construct and maintain the ditch on the southwest quarter, So, from those pieces of information in the historic documents, we can conclude that branch 6 does indeed extend into the southwest quarter, essentially to, it's not clear where it ends, but it would be logical for it to end, in the deeper part of the slough or wetland there on the western edge of that quarter, near I think it's CASA 15. So what's today is CASA 15. So it would be the engineer's recommendation that branch 6 be extended to that CASA 15 roadway crossing. And that was my last slide, so I can take questions or just turn it back over.
That's the logical place for it to have ended. At one time, County Road 15 used to be underwater on a regular basis. They didn't address the water issue. When they rebuilt the road, they raised the road to address the water issue. But the ditch could have been plain water moved. But raising the road was still a good idea, but that does clearly, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me on both sides of CASA 15, it's kind of a sloughy area, isn't it, John? Yeah. So it looks like a natural movement.
But the big question here was the ditch there and part of the system? That's really our main question here today, correct?
Yes.
I mean, and this evidence shows that it was there and it was part of the system from the beginning, so. So in essence, we're looking at extending the clean out portion, is that?
That would be correct. That isn't part of the reestablishment of records, but yeah, that would be including.
That will help us get there.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And it will make the record correct. So we wouldn't be taking records that were incorrect and saying, this is the records we're reestating, so we're reestablishing.
Do they have to do more redetermination with the extension then? Or is that already built in with the main part?
That should have been all included when the redetermination was done. Because even if was considered a private ditch, the water still goes into there. So I mean, there's still part of the watershed when that redetermination was done. That would be my assumption.
And Chair Bredesen and Commissioner Shufflebein, I'll just note on that slide, these lands were part of the original benefited area as well. That's what Mr. Lewis is showing in that previous slide with the assessment record. I also maybe should note for the record, I did check with Barb and John just to make sure that the current landowners in this section were part of the landowners that were noticed of the reestablishment of records, so that they would have had an opportunity to be notified of these proceedings, and they confirmed that they were. So I think in addition to further questions the board has for Mr. Lewis, following the board's questions, Chair Bredesen, I think if you would like, you could open the floor for any further public comments. And if there is none, then I am prepared to walk the board through some recommendations on what to do next after.
Do the board members have any additional questions in regard to this?
I don't think anyone is here to make public comments, so there would be no need to open the public meeting with her.
Okay. So we have no public, we have no folks from the public represented here today. So if there are any additional questions from the board or comments, Barb?
No, I think Kale's prepared, we lost him here right now. Kale's prepared to walk through what needs to be changed on that draft that you have in front of you.
Okay.
And then upon that change being outlined, you have the option to adopt that with the change or direct us differently.
Would you like to go ahead,
Chair
Kale?
Bredesen?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
So because of the timeline of when draft findings were due for the board packet, these draft findings were prepared prior to Mr. Lewis's discovery of these special proceedings from 1904. And so they're prepared assuming that we were not recommending an extension. So as I go through these, I'll make special note of where I'm now recommending some changes to the draft findings for the board. So in these draft findings, we just note on the first page, findings 1 through 4, that this board is the drainage authority, that a petition was filed in July of 1903 to establish County Ditch 15, and an order was finalized on December 27th, 1904 to establish the ditch. The drainage authority has been obligated by the drainage code for over a century now to regularly inspect and maintain and repair that drainage system, which it has done. And as part of those inspections and repairs, your staff is required to consult and look at the alignment, cross-section, profile, hydraulic structure locations, materials, dimensions, and elevations, and the right-of-way of the drainage system. After investigating the record, we just note that the drainage authority determined that records establishing those items were lost, destroyed, or incomplete. If we go to the next page, on paragraph 5, this will be the first change of the recommended draft findings. Previously stated, except for 2 realignments noted herein, I'm going to add throughout the document, except for 2 realignments and the extension of branch 6. That would cover the part that Mr. Lewis has presented today. So except for 2 realignments and the extension of branch 6 noted herein, there are no records in the drainage system records evidencing modification after establishment. Moving on, you have in your draft findings notes that there are records that the system has been maintained with minor maintenance and repair activities. Then some legal requirements, just noting that we're proceeding under 103E.101 subdivision 4A, which is the statute that allows you to reestablish records. In paragraph 8, I note that the board did adopt a resolution ordering the initiation of this proceeding to reestablish records and appointed Houston Engineering and Joe Lewis to conduct that investigation and report findings. The next paragraph notes that Mr. Lewis did file a draft report with the Drainage Authority on February 4th of 2019. I encourage Mr. Lewis to share that with the DNR because of the number of public waters that are in the area of this ditch system, which he did do. And so in paragraph 10, I just note that that draft report was shared with the DNR and they were invited to comment and provide early coordination and review of the data in order to better inform the evidence and resolve any concerns the DNR might have. And that was done for the board's sake, just to minimize chances of appeal and try to address early on any further challenges that might have come later at the time of doing repairs based on this record. So because of that, we are not anticipating a challenge on the profile and record from DNR when it comes time to repair. So the paragraph 11, I just note that based on coordination with the DNR, then the engineer did revise and file a final draft technical report dated September 21st, 2021. That is the report that was then referenced in the notice of the public hearing and then presented at the initial public hearing. In the next paragraph, just note that the drainage authorities reviewed the final draft and final report and find that the final report from September 2021 is the official report and recommendation in these proceedings. And then we incorporate that into these findings by reference. Starting with paragraph 13, I just go through some of the information that Joe Lewis stated in his report and also presented at the public hearing. So it includes findings about the engineer's analysis, discussing that the engineer identified the things required by statute, the alignment, cross-section profile, hydraulic structure locations, and the right-of-way of the drainage system. If we go down to paragraph 17, this is just noting that the drainage authority worked with the auditor to set a time and location for a final hearing, and that hearing was notified to DNR, to Bowser, and to all property owners. In addition to mailing, it was also published as required by statute. In paragraph 19, we just note that the original hearing was held November 1st, and that following public comment and board discussion, the hearing was continued to December 9th to allow the preparation of findings and an order. In paragraph 20, I include a description of the drainage system as described by the engineer's report. So if you look at subparagraph H, that does have the description from the engineer's report for branch 6. I'm leaving that as is in the draft findings because later I discussed the further investigation and then a recommendation to approve that alignment with the extension. So that's why here you see it as the originally recommended alignment. And then following that in paragraphs 21, 22, we're just referencing the figure that shows the alignment and then the acres that are reported as draining in the report. If we continue down to paragraph 25, this states that following the engineer's presentation, there's an opportunity for public comment. And then I included the comment from Mr. Daryl Dahlman about that branch 6 alignment. So I'm proposing the following change to these draft findings. In the initial paragraph, the last sentence before it says comments of Daryl Dahlman, I'm proposing we change that to the Drainage Authority directed its staff to investigate the following concerns raised at the public hearing. And then ending the sentence there and deleting upon investigation, the Drainage Authority finds. Then under Mr. Dahlman's comment, I propose we change that paragraph, keeping the original sentence that says Mr. Dahlman questioned the reported alignment of branch 6. Mr. Dahlman submitted a map excerpt prepared by Mid-Minnesota Development Commission in January of 2006 that shows the alignment of branch 6 extending further west than reported in the engineer's report of findings. The Mid-Minnesota Development Commission map excerpt states that it is based on data provided by Meeker County. I'm proposing a revision that would end that sentence there and then delete the rest of that paragraph, which originally was a response to that comment before we found the additional records. Then I note below that there's a record, a recording actually of all public comments submitted, but the rest of the comments in your staff's opinion were either not germane to reestablishing records, were adequately addressed during the proceedings, or did not warrant further investigation. So we're noting that comments were made, but it was really Mr. Dahlman's comment that was the one that required further investigation. Then the final changes I'm proposing are after that comment to insert the following paragraphs which address what Mr. Lewis just walked the board through. So I'm going to read through that now. I would say following the comment about the record of all public comments is contained in the record, we'd have a new paragraph 27 saying, following the close of public comments at the public hearing, the Drainage Authority moved to continue the final hearing to 9:30 on December 9th, 2021, or thereafter as the agenda allows at the Meeker County Courthouse. Next paragraph, at the continued public hearing, Engineer Lewis appeared and presented evidence from his investigation following the initial public hearing. Upon re-review of the County Ditch 15 drainage system records, Engineer Lewis found an affidavit of publication of minutes from proceedings of a special session of the Drainage Authority dated October 5th, 1904, which states that an extension to branch 6 was authorized by the Drainage Authority in exchange for a release of damages from the property owners of the southwest quarter of section 11. Next paragraph, the extension of branch 6 is visible in the earliest available aerial photograph from 1938, which corroborates the comment of Mr. Dahlman and the findings from the Drainage Authority's October 5th, 1904 special proceeding. Next paragraph, based upon information from the October 5th, 1904 special proceeding in aerial photography, Engineer Lewis recommended that the as constructed and subsequently improved condition alignment for branch 6 extend to the section line between section 11 and 12/CASA 15. Next paragraph, the Drainage Authority finds that based upon the investigation directed by the board at the initial public hearing, that there is merit to Mr. Dahlman's comment at the public hearing and that the alignment of branch 6 extends to the section line between section 11 and 12/CASA 15. Then moving back to the original draft findings, I state correction of the drainage system records to adopt the proposed functional alignment and grade of the drainage system as described in the engineer's report, and then I recommend we insert with the extension to branch 6 described herein will provide for the efficient administration of the drainage system. And then in the final paragraph of the findings, again, just adding after described in the engineer's report, the words with the extension of branch 6 described herein. So that adding that incorporates that we have the approved original report as modified with this extension of branch 6. If we go down to the order, we just have 2 paragraphs. I'm just proposing one change to paragraph A in order to incorporate the branch 6 correction. So paragraph A would read, the Drainage Authority hereby corrects the drainage system records of County Ditch 15 to reflect the alignment, cross-section, profile, hydraulic structure locations, materials, dimensions, and elevations, and right-of-way of the drainage system as detailed in the engineer's report of findings dated September 21st, 2021, and then inserting with the extension of branch 6 to the section line of section 11 and 12/CASA 15 as described herein. And then the second paragraph remaining the same as in your board packet, the Drainage Authority further directs filing and recording of documents necessary to reflect the reestablishment and correction of the public drainage system records established herein. So, Madam Chair, if there's questions from the board about the draft findings with my recommended changes, we can take or discuss those now. Otherwise, if the board is happy with the draft findings with those changes, ultimately we're looking for a motion to approve the draft findings as revised by me, and then a roll call vote on that motion.
So have all parties been made aware of these additions to the information that we have before us? Such as Mr. Dahlman has been made aware of all of these additions and corrections?
Not as of yet, just because I talked to Joe yesterday or the day before regarding this, so.
These are new developments, but Gail, do we need to go back and let them know what we found prior to or simultaneous to adopting this?
The board can do that. The only legal requirement of the board is what it did at the last hearing, which is, noted for the public that they would further investigate the issue and then continue the hearing to today's date for a potential decision. So presumably the law expects that if it was important to them, they would have used that opportunity to show up today. But it's up to the board. If the board would like to continue and do special notice to them, we just have to pick a date and time certain to then re-pick this up again and make that part of the motion to continue.
And to clarify the notification, would it be all landowners on 15 or these just identified?
Because we've noticed to a date, time, and certain, we don't have to send out any notice. But if the board would feel better having special notice to these landowners, it could direct us as to, how they want that communication to go. It wouldn't be one required by the code. It would just be one that would be the board's wish.
It's not a requirement.
Necessary.
And I can say this, I have spoke with the Dahlmans. I can't speak for them, but I spoke to them, and it is my view that these will be what they were looking to have happen. This is not going to be the opposite. So I think they will be pleased with the corrections made and the findings. So my personal feeling is we can move forward.
Well, I guess my comment would be, yeah, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is what they were wanting this portion included, and the findings are saying, yes, we can include it. So, I mean, I don't see, I can't make you happier than happy. I mean, it should be good, I think.
Okay.
And one comment I could make too is the few landowners that are being affected, the Dahlmans and a couple
could easily send out something just saying this is what we found, just so those people directly affected.
This is very interesting, to have records such as this, that, you know, the historical things that, and I just wanted to know if the parties involved had seen this.
Probably not, because
Or
it
if this-
wasn't discovered the first time that Joe went through some of this.
Sure.
So there's just volumes of paperwork
Yeah.
in the historic files.
That was very interesting.
Well, I think it's a credit to Dahlman's for being at that meeting and saying, hey, you guys missed a piece. So I mean,
Yep, very, very good.
So the recommended motion that you put in this, Andrew, would we need to change that last sentence where it says, system as detailed in the engineer's report of findings dated September 2021, and add something to say, with the amendments?
Yep, because there were
Hereby found?
additions put in there.
Kale, you got a copy of what I put in the request for board action, did you not?
It's also shared on the screen right now.
Okay.
Is it up here?
So what they're asking is, should we amend that last sentence as you recommended?
Oops, can't hear.
Can't hear
No, we
you.
can't hear you.
Thank you.
There we go.
You know, if we do this for 2 more years, maybe I'll never make that mistake.
When do I mute?
I do think it should be amended to add with the extension of branch 6 described therein. So after 2021, comma, with the extension of branch 6 described therein.
Madam Chair, I would make that recommended motion. Would you like me to read it, or can we use?
Maybe,
Going yes.
No, you don't have to read
what
it,
he
Mike.
said, yeah. With the additions.
Yes, as it is up on the screen with that addition that Cale just mentioned, the new
The
findings
addition
for
of-
branch 6.
We have a motion. Do
I'll
I hear a
second that
second?
motion.
We have a second. Is there any additional discussion? Any questions for any of our folks here today? From the board?
roll call.
Hearing no discussion, we will take the vote on the motion as amended.
It's a roll call.
By roll call.
Roll
Well,
call.
that's, oh, yeah, and we have to have a roll call. And Andrew, would you please read the roll call?
Commissioner Oberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Chairman Bredesen.
Yes. So by unanimous vote, it has been passed. Anything else, Barb?
Thank you, Kale and Joe, for the hard work you did, and especially in the last few days.
And Barb?
And John.
And John?
And Paul.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Good to
you.
see
Thank
you,
you.
fellas.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Guys.
Okay, anything else that we need to address at this time? Not today, not right now? All right, well then we will adjourn the County Ditch Authority and reconvene as county board.
And Julie, if you don't mind, I would like for these gentlemen to be able to move on, and I know Paul got trumped, but it would be nice to do the snowmobile first.
You bet,
Okay.
you
wonderful.
bet. Let's readjust our agenda. We have guests today, and we will move to the next item then. Let's put this away over here.
Okay, if you're ready. So we have before you the approval of the grant and aid program for the year 2022. This is a maintenance and grooming grant. This works with our Meeker County trails and also with the Darwin and Manana Snowblazers and Darwin Drifters snowmobile clubs, of which we have representation. This grant is done annually, and they will be able to obtain about $36,700 with this grant approval. This has been going on for numerous years. This grant is very similar to others. The only thing which I saw was some things regarding COVID and some of the extensions of COVID. So it's pretty much a mirror agreement that we've done for years. So I'd ask that you approve the State of Minnesota grant contract agreement for snowmobile grant and aid program year 2022.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve, entering into the state of Minnesota grant contract agreement for snowmobile grant and aid program for 2022.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Now, knowing that we have guests here today, may I open this up for any comment from those folks at this time, as long as we have representatives here?
We could, and they're here mostly for the next item, but this is very
Okay.
important to them because this does provide for their funding.
Sure. Gentlemen, would anyone care to speak to this issue at this time?
Man, this is the important one. If we can't get this one, we're pretty well out of business.
Yeah. All right. Certainly, any other comment from our guests? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is why we have these guests with us, representing both Manana Snow Blazers and the Darwin Drifters, and as members of the Meeker County Trail Association. What they have before them is a need to replace their trail groomer. It has some issues, and the issues are such that it is better to look for a new unit than to continue to put new tracks and other issues with the existing unit that they have. It's a 2001. So in June, the club did apply for a grant, a federal grant, and they were not selected for funding.
Oh.
And so that was disappointing in that they were now looking at another way to try to fund this particular unit. They have located a 2020 Tucker, of which you saw all the documents within your packet, that they would like to purchase. That cost is $187,441. The Trail Association has money in savings that they're planning to apply toward that. Certainly not depleting their savings because they do need to have operation of other unexpected expenses and are requesting the board consider an $80,000 loan. They're proposing to make $10,000 annual payments, and they're proposing to do that with interest, which you will be asked to identify the interest amount for them. We have done this loan in the past for their Kubota that they purchased. I believe it was probably 15 plus years ago. So it was not a method that's new to this club. They have exercised this method once before. So before you is the proposal that they have. They are here with their request for funding, and they're here to help us with the questions, and we can move forward with that.
Well, I would think this is something that a lot of Meeker County residents use. And it's also something, having groom trails in Meeker County, when we're looking for people to move in and take some of our jobs, is a good thing. So, it's just my thoughts.
Now you say 80,000 with 8 payments, and that would be an annual, it says, before April.
Right, they're proposing
1st.
before April 1st annually to make that $10,000 payment.
I think during COVID, this is a good thing. People get to get outside, don't have to get some air and get around, don't have to be enclosed, so it's a great thing. Is there any grant funding that would be available for any of this, do you think, besides this?
The one grant that they went after was the grant
That's it?
funding available.
There's nothing from COVID money or anything like that that would be available?
We could potentially look at the funding sources within the county to do that. I think that, potentially some ARP dollars could be eligible for.
That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
Could happen
Because
either way.
recreation is
That doesn't
an
mean-
allowable use.
This is a good thing. I mean, it just is, and the volunteers take care of it, I think.
I want to commend this group as well. I've been pretty active with them, helping them with paperwork and things, and we have a very small group, but they're very passionate, and I think Meeker County needs to recognize that.
So I'm curious how you do the 10,000 a year. Do you have memberships? Do you have some off-site charitable things that you get the money with? Would it be from the annual grant or?
Sure.
Be here from our grant.
Okay.
We've been saving for the last few years. quite heavily because there was no snow a few of these
Yeah.
years. So.
Yeah, right. Okay, good. Well, I commend you. I appreciate the work you do on it, so. I'm willing to make a motion to approve a loan to the Meeker County Trail Association in the amount of $80,000, and I guess we have to talk about an interest rate. Sorry,
To
I
pick
jumped
a-
the gun here.
What is the
I
going
don't
interest
know.
rate?
Well, I talked to Barb a little bit about this yesterday, because, and again, the punitive rate, if you will, the county imposes you in at 4.5, but, you know, for delinquencies and things like that.
What do we do with ditch money?
Ditch is usually, it's been, well, we did 3.5 on one, so I mean, somewhere in that, you know, we've been as low as 2 already, but I mean, on an 8-year loan, your term is out a ways. We don't know what the interest rate is gonna do, so we kinda.
The current prime interest rate today is 3.25.
What do we get money for? Do we pay an interest rate on funds that are used in this regard?
No, what, because we would be paying the money out, this is money that wouldn't be able to sit into our accounts and
Well, we just
earn
we
investment
tax the
interest.
property owner for our money. That's how we get money, so.
Well, and I think that's kind of what we have to weigh, that
I
the
agree.
longer the term is, the 8 years, you know, we don't know what interest will be moving out that far, and we have to, the taxpayer has some
And the value,
spend in this, so
the
we
value
have
of that
to-
$80,000 8 years from today is gonna be different than what it is today.
And this
so
will be a
that's
set.
that's what the purpose of the interest rate is not to have the county make money on it, but
Yeah.
to basically cover the inflationary cost.
And this will be a set rate, not a fluctuating rate,
Correct.
Fixed.
Yeah.
fixed rate. Okay.
So the other thing that could shorten the term, okay, we'll approve, we'll move, make a motion on this and do something today, but if they were to send a letter of application requesting ARP funds, there is a possibility,
An early payment clause, can we include an early payment like you do on a loan? If they get a grant, if they get some additional
Yeah, you
fundings, they could
don't
pay
pay
this
as
off?
much interest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well,
the
I-
clause.
That's how it works. That's how it works, for sure.
To advantage the
We certainly
club.
would not penalize them for paying us back.
We don't care. We don't mind if you pay early here.
We're not Wells Fargo.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Early payment
Whoops.
clause.
Whoops.
Mike was
In
on.
the previous experience, they did pay early, so that previous
Yeah.
one, and I
Okay.
didn't have all the data, but there was early payments, and I believe that in their heart, that's what they plan to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
We don't want to strap them to something they
No.
can't function under.
Barb and I had a really good conversation about the term, and, is 8 years an appropriate length of time? I think where we landed on it was we felt comfortable with it because we wanted to make sure that the payments were not so onerous that it was unaffordable, but at the same time was still short enough that allowed the county to not have this liability that's out there for a long period of time. So.
And I would just make a comment too, when it comes to talking about ARP funds. I think something for the group to keep an eye on, like in AMC meetings the last few days, I think there's gonna be dollars for outside recreational grants, different grants that'll be coming up too, over the course of time here.
How would they be notified of those opportunities?
Great question.
In
If
the
you
ways
hear
that anyone
something, let them know. I mean,
Knowledgeable
that
of
type
state grant opportunities.
Yeah, you just gotta check.
Yeah, you have to keep an eye
You
out.
gotta find it, but I mean, I think there will be opportunities moving forward, the way it sounds, some of the things that we talked about yesterday at state level, so.
Would their township boards have that information?
Possibly,
or-
possibly get notified through the
Okay.
clerk.
And some of those township boards are wondering what they're gonna do with ARP money.
See, that,
Doesn't
Do
hurt to
you-
ask them either.
Do you have somebody that is pretty fluent in the grant area, or that keeps an eye on that pulse a little bit, or I guess
No, we
that's
don't.
that's the big thing, is you can find somebody to bird dog it a little bit. I mean, that's kinda,
do you have any board members represented on your townships?
No, we don't.
Okay, you could maybe give a contact, to those
Yeah,
folks.
I contact our local township. I pretty much go to every other meeting, so I will.
There you go.
but, and if we hear something, we'll pass it on through Barb or something to it, obvious. But I think there is dollars that are,
And
So-
like his federal, grant program, we heard that through DNR. So hopefully DNR will also keep them on board and we'll watch for that too.
Great.
So what if I would include, how about 3%? Does that sound fair? Do I add that to the motion?
Three, or prime, whatever you think, 3.25. That's,
Just to keep it nice,
well, I
thought
think
3.
it's fair to the taxpayer too. We gotta play both sides here a little bit.
Is 3 okay or no?
Yeah, it's policy.
So that would be my motion. Motion to approve a loan to the Meeker County Trail Association in the amount of $80,000 at 3% interest with 8 payments of $10,000 plus interest on or before April 1 annually.
I have a motion.
Second.
Do I hear a second? We have a second. Any discussion? We're content with the 3% and 8 years with an inclusion of, we've discussed the early payment clause, if there are other funds that become available. Any additional discussion or questions?
I just like the discussion in terms of it, but we don't wanna set a precedent either, because, there are other trails associations in Meeker County too, and we don't wanna step on their toes in terms of, giving them a sweetheart deal versus someone else. So I think using that, 3% right around prime rate is a good answer in terms of that, but we don't wanna go down too much slippery slide, because what if there's another association out there that wants more? And how do you go to the taxpayer and say, well, we're giving them more loans and et cetera, but since this has been done before, I'm I like it.
That's
the
what I
policy.
thought too. They've done a good job and haven't come and asked for much ever since I've been a commissioner. So.
How long is Meeker Trails Association, how long is that? Come on, Barb.
I've worked with them for the whole time I've been auditor and they asked that.
But I mean, it's been established,
It's been on this.
it's 50 years or,
There's been a lot of years without snow, so
Oh,
it's hard to remember, isn't it?
Admire these gentlemen. that put a
Absolutely.
lot of work into this signage and are very passionate.
and they're good to the landowners. They go across their properties and they have the pancake feed and those sorts of things, appreciations and.
And when they are audited, which this grant that you just approved is audited, when we were audited back-to-back years, we did very well. Document, they need to have landowner agreements, as Julie commented, there are a lot of things they have to keep in place.
So you called, I could take the mic, I guess.
Oh.
You said something about AARP money that's available, and this is something that's coming up through the townships?
Did they talk about that at the current meeting, Steve, or who
well,
brought that up?
that's.
Steve?
I just brought it up now.
Okay.
I just mentioned it.
Okay,
Throw it, it's ARP, not CARP. And a lot of
Okay.
townships got money and may, and I say may, because,
That's
they
what
may not have enough left to allocate you any money, but ask
Okay.
not, want not, it would be a good idea to at least.
And it,
I think it's a great, yeah, definitely get in front of them and visit with them a little bit, because the rules from the federal government, state government as to how they use them funds is
Right.
kind of being discussed and changed and reformatted all the time too, so. But if you're not in the room, you know what you're gonna get, too, so.
you can also consider making a request to the county. We have a committee that considers some requests for some new rounds of funding. I don't know what the townships are doing this time.
Yeah, it's not, the townships
not
are
like last
It's
evaluating.
up to them, yeah, it's up to each.
But it's just something to consider, think about. So.
Okay.
stay in
Thanks.
touch with your township reps.
Yeah, if there's something we hear, we'll let you know too. I mean, no doubt.
I got a question. So, Jeff and I are both on the line of Banana and Union Grove, so we farm in both. Can you talk to both townships?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I think wherever the trail goes through is who you would talk to.
Yeah, you have,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, you're benefiting them taverns and bars in them areas and different things, I mean, don't be bashful.
You know me, Steve.
Because the property owners are in several represented townships you know, you could discuss with all of those township supervisors, so. Yeah,
Thank you.
very good. Any other discussion or questions? We have a motion that needs to be addressed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There you go. Thanks, guys. You bet.
Very good. That took-
The other two items are really short for mine, I'm believing, so.
Okay.
The forfeit account, and I put an outline for the distribution of the forfeit account, and I put a little history of what we have done. In 2015, 18, and 20, we did not move money from the forfeit fund to revenue for the reason that there were pending forfeit properties that we could have possibly have put a large amount of money into. At this point, I feel $83,000 is too much to retain in the forfeit account. If we were to get a really nasty property, I'd be back before the board anyway with some options that we'd have to look at. So at this point, I wish to settle out 2015 and 18, and that amounts to $42,009.94, which would put that back in the general fund and no longer be restricted. So it's a simple motion to do a transfer from the forfeit fund, which is 135, to revenue for that amount.
I may have missed this, but Barbara, I just had to ask one question. How did you come up with 42,009.94?
When you do the 40-40-20 split, and you have that remaining balance, for 15 and 18, I came up with a wild number.
I just wonder why we were 42 even, that's all.
94 cents.
Cause you're closing out them
I
years.
wanna close those 2
Yeah.
years, so yes, it is an odd number, but I wanna close those 2 years officially, so it's clean.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the transfer of $42,009.94 from tax forfeit fund to the general fund.
Do I hear a second? Has been seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The last item would be the payables for ours.
Move to approve.
Madam Chair, I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion. It has been seconded. Do I hear any discussion about the accounts payable?
I have one question.
Okay.
Under general revenue, Barb, I was looking at, there's an ambulance transport for $711.
That has been seen before, and you'll see that that's code 201, so that's from the sheriff's department. I'm assuming something with.
Okay, it just kinda jumped out
Right.
under general.
I did see that one too, and I'm assuming there was an issue that.
So you knew that question was
I
coming.
knew it was coming.
Aha.
Remember, they're unique on there, they're coming.
It just stood out, I was
Right,
like,
no,
okay.
and I did look, that has happened before. From a location. And it's a 201 code insured.
Yes, yes it is. Thank you, that's all I had.
Okay, any additional questions? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you for your time and going ahead, so social services and all up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you, gentlemen, for
Yeah.
attending.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Morning.
Well, good
Oh.
morning.
Services.
Oh,
You were on at 9:05.
how's Paul today?
Yeah, thank you for waiting for me.
Yeah. We had treats, so we did fine. Yeah.
Good. My first order of business before you this morning is to approve the hiring of two full-time social workers. These positions are in our children's mental health arena. The vacancies are as a result of retirement and a resignation. These positions are funded through Children's Mental Health Targeted Needs Management. And we're looking at both of the positions starting effective December 13th.
These are full-time.
Makes no difference about either one of them. I'm just curious, did you have a lot of candidates?
We got really lucky.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I think we had, I
believe, about 8 folks that applied for the position, and we
Really?
interviewed 4 of those. The timing of this, we were, had a planned retirement coming, and then we had a short notice on a resignation, and while we were going through the hiring process, and we actually had 2 very good candidates at that time, so it's better to be lucky than good most days, just so you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So we're very excited for both of these candidates.
And they're both coming in with credentials that they start at the same step and level
Yes.
here?
Yes.
I noticed that, okay?
Yes.
Can we take these both in one motion?
I'm wondering,
They're the
we
same,
may do that?
same step.
Move to approve the hiring of J. Hannah Anders and Samantha Wingert, with a start date of December 13th, 2021.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And as we follow up with some dominoes in our child support collections department as a result of a resignation, I would like to move to, have child support enforcement aide Haley Carlson be promoted to child support officer. Again, we had a number of good candidates. This was an open position, but Haley kind of rose to the top as an internal candidate.
She was internal. Okay.
Correct.
She was an aide and now is able to meet the credentialing for this requirement
And the experience,
and
yes,
experience. And is this full-time?
yes.
This will be full-time,
This is replacing a retirement, right?
a resignation?
Correct, yes, we
Present.
had the one retirement and then we moved into a lead position, and this is filling where the lead position moved into.
Got it, kind of.
And we will have likely some dominoes that now we have to fill.
So why did I think we were combining this with something else, or I'm confused?
We did,
We did,
yes,
okay, so I'm not confused then.
yes,
I am confused,
no.
good.
That's a trick
Straighten it out for me,
I gotta
Commissioner. Commissioner Schiefelbein, can you straighten this out for me?
Not currently.
Another position that got combined,
That we-
and then that position got filled, and then
Right.
this person is filling that person's position.
So bottom line, did we eliminate anything?
Yes,
Good, that was my question.
There we go. Yep, okay.
So I'll move to approve the promotion of Haley Carlson to Child Support Officer effective January 2022 at B22, Step 3, 2178 an hour.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Okay, is there any discussion? Since this was internal and this person moved up, will her position be replaced?
yes,
So there will be another person to come in and take Haley's aide position.
yes, we don't know how it's actually gonna domino effect, but yes.
Okay. Okay, any additional discussion or questions for Paul? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
My next order of business for you is to request a purchase of directional signage from Ramsay Printing for the Family Service Center. We've watched a number of folks come into our building over the course of the last few years, and in particular, trying to direct traffic during our COVID response. There isn't a day that I don't walk through our foyer and assist somebody to find where they need to go throughout the building. What we currently have, as you can see, is just some signs with some arrows that doesn't really provide a very professional presentation for the type and quality of services that they receive from social services, public health, and our building tenants. We are looking to ensure that we meet ADA compliance standards for Disability Act compliance standards. And we're also looking at it as being a part of our security profile by ensuring that folks know where they go and not have to wander through our building and trying to look for whatever place they're landing on. We worked with all of our building partners at the Family Service Center, and this has been a project that's been worked on for about a year and a half now. We drafted new maps of our building to demonstrate kind of where folks are at. We have also obtained 3 different quotes from different vendors. We worked with our different departments to choose what the signs would look like, how the directory would work in our building, as well as our building tenants. We've also worked with the vendors that develop the signs to develop proofs and determine what is the right solution for our building. And Ramsay Printing has really helped us with that. The reason why we're looking at this solution is it's as budget friendly as we can get to ensure that we're moving folks throughout the building adequately. It's flexible for any potential changes within the building. If there's any movement of departments or movement of our building tenants or additions to the building, this will be able to be adapted to attend to those. There's a high visible main directory at the entrance, and we believe this will assist us in less lost clients. Departments will be visible from the main lobby, so as you look down our hallways, people will be able to see a projected sign so that they know where they're located. For like Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, when you look down the hallway, you'll be able to see WIC, our Veteran Service Office as well, and clear direction to our elevators as well as any of our upstairs customers, in particular with Woodland Centers. Identifies conference rooms and restrooms. As you can see, those are not clearly identified in the hallway, and we do want to make sure that folks are able to find those basic necessities as they're visiting us. We are looking at Ramsay Printing because they are a local vendor. Their quote is a little bit higher, and what that does include is the projected signs for public health, Woodland Centers, and I believe our WIC clinic as well. We could pare down from those projected signs, and that would put us right in the same ballpark with the other vendors. However, we believe that those are a better option than just the signage that is currently available. The person would actually have to look at their door to see where their signage is. These give them a down the hallway glance that's a lot easier and a lot more visible. Ramsay Printing really worked with us in designing the solution, and so being slightly higher, I think, is just compensation for their efforts in working with us. We actually worked with them to develop the solution and use that solution to go get our various quotes. The cost is high. I didn't expect that signs would be that expensive, but my goodness, as you can see by the quotes, they're very competitive in that area. The funding for this would come through our social services budget, and this would be a partial administrative cost for us, so there would fit into a third of it into our administrative profile.
I was glad to see this. I think it's long overdue over there for the first 2 yet. And I know I'm directionally backwards, but when I first became a county, it was embarrassing to walk into that building and try to figure out where to go, because nothing tells you there's an air and then there's nothing. And I'm gonna tell you a quick story. About 2 months ago, I walked in there for a meeting, and there was a gal sitting in tears just about on the bench. And I said, "Can I help you with something?" And she was trying to find her way to Woodland, and was very worried that she was gonna miss her appointment. I walked her, I said, "You go," and then I could see, I said, "Do you want me to walk you up?" And I did. This is just overdue, and I had some signs made at the Legion, and it's high. But I've moved to Ramsay for a lot of my stuff because of the service. They're there when you need something. If you need something to be replaced, it's easy. So, I just think it's long overdue. do, so I was glad to see this.
I have one reservation about it. If we do modification in the building, are these signs already outdated? And is it something we should actually do at that point or not?
This was something that Paul and I had talked about. The sign systems are modular, so we can move things around.
And you can just put something else in though, right?
Yes.
You don't have to
We can
redesign
change-
the
we can
wheel to,
change the
right,
directory, we can
right.
change,
Right.
all these sorts of
That's
things.
a good
This is kind
question.
of our upfront cost. If we did something different in the building with the signs, there would be a cost, obviously. It's not gonna be this, but it would be just modifying that one particular sign to meet the needs. And that was part of the solution, that Joel had a real strong input on. He wanted to make sure that we were able to modify this to fit
Makes
the building's
sense.
needs.
Well, that was one of my questions too, just further renovation over there, if, you know, since we're talking about it, are we making sure everything's universal? And the other, just so I'm clear on this, there is, Ramsay putting a little more, their signage is a little bit additional. I mean, the price is higher, $450 or whatever, but we're getting a little bit more out of them.
We're actually getting 3 projected signs from
Okay.
them that
That's-
weren't
I just-
captured in the other quotes. And I think their price was just a little bit higher, probably about $200 if you took those 3 signs out of the quote. And I think that's, fits within our purchase local policy within the county. But they worked with us so much, I think compensating them for that effort is valuable.
Your other place is in Pennsylvania, so if you do have any problems, you're gonna, it'll be gone.
I used to order my T-shirts for work offline. It was a couple dollars cheaper. And when you have a struggle or something's wrong, there you sit. I can call them and say, Kathy, here's what happened. That means something.
No,
when you're talking about this little bit of difference, I think.
Well, I
And
just-
another justification is, quite frankly, the company in Pennsylvania only estimated shipping.
Well, there you go. And shipping is
So,
huge
The way
right
shipping
now.
is, I don't have any
Well,
problem.
Gotta
Paul,
pay
it
those
says there-
postal employees their retirement.
Said in here-
Holy crap, let's not get into that, could we?
And Paul can run down to
Just
Mankato
saying.
and pick these up for Ramsay and save another $200
Yeah.
too, so then we're good.
That's almost worse.
That Paul. But-
Paul's mixed up here, man. Actually, if you read the estimate, it says shipping not included. Ramsay's. So,
But it does say you can go pick them up in Mankato and save $200.
But I just wanna commend you for doing the work, because I brought this up several years ago that, number one, I worry about security in that building, cause you walk into nothing. But trying to find your way around is just, if you don't know, you don't know. And I agree with you, more than one time when I walked in there, but the Woodland patient really got me thinking about it, so.
I think-
That's a daily occurrence.
I believe you.
So we,
Absolutely.
you know, we've watched this problem for quite some time. And I have to give credit to Joel and Amber, who've really shepherded this project forward and really worked with our building tenants and the other departments within the building to really develop a solution. We've been at this for, well, we started pre-COVID, so
Been a while.
here we are.
I remember Beth bringing this up years past,
Absolutely.
right, about better signage over there, so I agree, it's long
And
overdue.
when you say projected, it sticks out, so you don't have to come up, turn and look at the wall. These stick out like
Just
that
Walmart
example.
looking down the aisle,
You can see.
And
What
it's,
aisle
and it's
you're
in a
in?
font that's large enough for folks that have visual impairments.
Is this bid, does this bid include installation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to drill a hole
Yeah,
in the wall.
Yeah, well, I mean, installation is really Joel, right? But placement and those sorts of things are where we've worked with them to develop where they need to be, those sorts of things. So, are they going to come in and drill holes in the walls? I don't think Joel would ever
No,
allow
he would
that.
not want that.
Oh,
No, we would rather have that done by our folks.
okay, so, all right.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, is there gonna be another crew that will come in? They'll charge us on top of this?
No, there will be no other costs associated with this, other than if there's some applications that need to occur because of changes in the building.
Our crew will take care of it.
So I'll move to approve the purchase of directional signage from Ramsay Printing for the Family Services Center in the amount of $11,269.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. Do we have any additional discussion or questions on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. The next order of business I have before you is our social services accounts payable.
We're not gonna pay them this time. So,
That's okay.
Ah, boy.
It's the end of the year. I have to gotta reconcile.
I
all
always
this.
get a kick
So-
out of that, no matter what committee you're on, they always talk about, like, we know you're gonna pay, what if we vote no, right?
Then what do they do?
Move to approve the accounts payable and social services.
Have a motion? Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay. We have a motion. It has been seconded to approve accounts payable. Any discussion, any questions on?
I do have a question or two.
I was watching.
Here we go.
We must have replaced every monitor in the building just about over there, huh?
We have done a lot of work. Yes.
No, there was a lot of monitors
Yes.
and, IT, so I'm assuming that's just IT schedule and billing it back to family services. And the other thing if you, and I know you'd explain this, so I'd understand it, so that's why I'm gonna ask it here. MA, long-term care, there's a $9,500 bill in the payables for, and it's, I'm assuming a MA LTC under 65.
Correct.
So how does that?
That's a pass-through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what quantum care, what they purchased.
Okay. Okay.
I'm assuming that it would probably be some form of durable medical equipment at that price.
Okay. All right. That was just one of my questions on. That's all I got. Was monitors and long-term care.
The monitors were just part of our expansion.
Scheduled.
Well, it's part of our schedule, but it's also part of our expansion to ensure that folks have 3 monitors. And we have laptops for all of our workers now, and they have the single monitor. Now they're going to have 3 monitors, and we found that assists with their productivity.
Any other questions? Any further discussion? We have a motion. If no further discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It has carried. Motion carries.
I don't have anything else for you today, but I do have to say that it's been really fun the last few days because for whatever reason, the pheasants are out.
Ah,
I mean, I've been driving down 24 and there's an area that there's like about 150 birds that just been hanging out. And it's like, wow, that's kind of cool.
Are they out or just more obvious because of the white ground?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then pulling out of your drill, huh?
Makes my community interesting. I'm not dodging deer or turkeys right now.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Paul.
All
Can I
right.
be so bold as to ask for a?
You bet. Are we to the
Wow.
point now?
That is bold.
That is pretty
Because,
bold.
Someone.
I-
Too much water.
I know,
Cup of
I know
coffee,
we
and
have,
it's time.
I know we have Greg here, but could we take a little break right now then, as long as it has been requested? Well,
In other words, you don't wanna do that.
let's return from our break. That was good. Now we have Greg. Would you like to take over?
Yep, hello,
Okay.
Greg Schultz, I'm the director of the solid waste coordinator. Today we're in front of you to propose some adjustments to how we charge at our landfill tipping fees. As mentioned in the RV, it's come to the attention in the past month or so of that we probably have a lot more dunnage coming into our landfill from out of the county than we probably expected. We ran into an incident about a month and a half ago where we took the old Festival Foods building down, that's up in our landfill right now. We had an incident. One of the drivers up there with the one company that was hauling out of us, we halted him and the drivers, and I don't think they ended up bringing the rest of it up to our demo site. But with that, I think Randy and Jay have those, they're kind of keeping better track of what's being brought into the landfill. It's come to our discovery that stuff from outside the county, more of it's coming in and it's not getting cheap. So with that, number one, we want to go to a weighing system in Kansas County down the road. Our fee schedule's on the left. Our fee schedule on the left has always been by yardage. It's been by site, by the viewers and the people that are operating the transfer station. So, you know, they go up there and just looking at it, it looks like 3 years, looks like 5 years, looks like 2 years. It's really not a good way of keeping track of anything. Weighing it like KDOI County and some of these other institutions will kind of give us a more definite tracking system of what exactly is going in for volumes into our.
Is there also then a paper record?
There'd be a paper record at that point too. There's a paper record too of the yardage that's going in there, but it's by eyeball. So this is a more accurate way to do it. When we had the incident that happened a month and a half ago, Brent had talked to the contractor that was hauling out of Hutchinson. And he had mentioned, hey, let's go down to Spruce Ridge, just down the road, why don't you go in there? He said, it's way too expensive. That was one of our first things, just tipped us out. It's like, well, we gotta do something with the tip fees here to kind of preserve our, the area that we have up there for wind. Currently, according to Wink, is from my May presentation, we had about 12 and a half years left of capacity at that time. Now we're probably down to 12, but I don't know, maybe we're even less than that by what comes in the summer. So maximum capacity we have right now, approximately 12 years on that dump site. So,
And I talked,
extend that beyond that.
do you know when the last time was we did I asked Andrew, but I couldn't. Were you around, Steve? Cause we had a discussion then about these out-of-town people, didn't we? When was it? 19?
And we didn't go up a lot,
No,
I don't think.
but we talked, I know the discussion was, cause I never thought people would drive that far difference over that, but apparently they do.
We figured it out.
The big players do.
Yeah.
Well, you figure, once the product's on the truck,
Doesn't matter.
you know what I mean?
Well,
The
it
other-
matters some, but they just figure out the difference and
And
if it's,
simple math, then it's so
Yeah.
much a mile, and if the miles work out, it's,
So we got a whole grocery store from another company then.
yeah, McLeod County, which, think about that, if you think about it, you know, the county board of McLeod County approved the demolition of that building, not knowing that we're getting it, but.
It was actually the city. 'Cause it's
The city.
The city.
Sure.
But in essence, another government entity brought their trash to us.
Yeah.
So
We graciously accept it.
when these out of county come in with their trucks, you know where that refuse is coming from
Well,
or not? So
If they ask the questions, yes. If they don't ask the questions, if they haven't been up until recently, they haven't been asking those questions.
but they're supposed to be, aren't they? Right? But they have been kinda slack.
Yes.
as the individual company that you had the issue with happens to live in Meeker County.
The owner does.
Yes, but doing the work. So I wouldn't want
Oh,
that little escapade getting pulled either where, no, I live in Meeker County, so I can dump this even though I collected it in McLeod.
Well, I think they can dump it, but I wonder what we're talking about here, not if they can dump it, but how much they should pay when they dump it.
Yes, yeah.
Well, and I think we need to be a deterrent to do,
I agree.
I mean, quite honestly, I think what's in the RBA isn't high enough
No, I agree.
Yeah, and I just.
for
hope
out of
that-
county. No, I'm not
Hopefully you guys
criticizing.
have discussed that.
what is McLeod anyway? Do we know
It's-
approximately on
Spruce
that?
Ridge, yes, Spruce Ridge is $63 a ton. for
Oh,
untreated.
that is,
It's $90 a ton for.
gotcha.
treated.
That's McLeod per
That's
se.
Spruce Ridge.
So if we were at 50, 55 a ton, they could take it to Candio High, because then Candio High's at 37.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna haul it that far if they're coming from the east or southeast, who knows? But,
You don't know.
but by raising this fee, and deterring a little bit is gonna extend the life of our landfill. And I think we have to look at that as the big picture.
You have to come to the consensus that, is this gonna be a service for the county over many, many years, or is it gonna be a business? So far, I think it's just been operating under the consensus that it's a service to the citizens of Meeker County, not running a business.
Well,
Because
when you have
we've had in the past.
limited capacity, that has to be first and foremost, in my mind.
Did we know that this entire grocery store was coming here? Do we have a choice in saying,
No,
no, thank
No.
you?
they don't call for permission.
I wouldn't think.
They don't, but, and I don't know if we can say you can't come here either, can we?
Because if we just charge by the truckload.
As long as you're charging and you're asking, but if
That's
you
it.
have a reputation of not asking, they're gonna go right to you, cause it won't
And we
matter.
need to make sure we're asking, I think. But we weren't charging by the ton before though, right?
No.
In all likelihood, this one coming out of McLeod was a bid job. They knew what our charges were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they knew they were gonna
Because they bid
get a
that in there.
pass through in terms of that. My only reservation is why did you increase the price so much, like higher than Candioi in county? I have no problem with the out county, but why not something similar to Candioi for in county?
It's $2 off per ton. in cans.
Right.
Figured if they increase theirs next year, which I don't really.
Oh,
I don't
gotcha.
know what they're at now.
Inflation factor.
It's inflation factor.
It's only $1 more per ton for the self-haulers for the first 1,000.
Right, I saw that. I was just wondering why, what you're figuring in terms of that versus Candioi, cause I don't care about
Cause I
out
didn't
county.
wanna bring this to the board, and we have here at Canyon, it's on Canyon I in February or July, or January one, Boost there is up $3-4 a ton. That's a
Well,
lot
and I
more
can
cheaper.
tell you right now, if we go up,
They'll
our
proportionally
neighbors will
go up.
probably go, because it's,
Same
it's-
problems.
Guys will start hauling over there. And
They
until
have the same problems. Gotcha. It's enough.
And in the RBA, I would like make that, cause I can't remember how it's worded here, it says, in the
42 per ton for contractors performing work outside of the county.
performing, but then it says 34 for performing work within the county. I'd like that specified that, I don't care if you're working with, I wanna make sure the product is coming from within the county, not that you live here and you're, you know what I mean? Product that's located within, what you're tearing down within the county can come here.
It is kinda there though.
It is there.
Okay,
isn't it?
alright.
Performing.
I just wanna make sure that that's,
Understood.
so we're not doing the, well, I live here and, but I'm hauling stuff from.
The main thing is just to make sure we're a little more, not aggressive, but more just asking.
In line.
Yeah.
We're way
No, in terms of dollars, but then asking, cause it doesn't matter if you don't ask.
That's
It won't matter.
We've addressed that with endurance,
Yeah.
particularly last.
And that'll take care of a lot of the outsiders in terms
Does
of
that-
that anyway.
has that helped?
Don't know.
Madam-
We're not out there
How do they know
24
how much to
we're not
charge
out there
if
all
they
the
don't
time
know if
watching.
they're in county?
Madam Chair, if I
Judge
may
anything.
add, some of the questions you had about whether or not you could restrict someone from dropping material off, I think that would go towards any policy. I'm not aware of a policy that we actually have for any restrictions. If there was a policy setting standards, then that's what we could follow. And then the second question to that is, we have an agreement with, with Endurance, and in there, when are we due for that agreement update? Because we could put language in there that says, you shall be asking these questions or even filling a form and having them sign it.
Yep.
Because if we find out they're not,
The last agreement I had with them was 2019.
and how
We're
long?
due.
I think
We're due.
Only change the tip fees is probably when we did the agreement.
We've had conversations about, we have bigger issues with that agreement with Endurance that we're taking a look at. So this is separate from that, but that's another issue that's gonna be dealt with.
Because like Paul mentioned, somebody who bids a job they go, oh, okay, I can bring it over here to Meeker. But then Meeker doesn't even realize that all of this material is now going to be coming to our facility, but this fellow is bidding it into his, say, no.
They really don't know
Yeah.
how much is out of county if they haven't asked. I mean, they need to ask.
Wow. I like the idea of
That's
the
just been recently
form,
since
especially if someone's bidding a
Right,
job.
'cause so they
then
don't, we don't
what's
even know if
coming.
they've been charging them the right amounts with the
Yeah, we
amount
have
that
no
we have.
idea when they say, like I said, if you're looking at the truck, well, it looks like 3 years, looks like 5.
And then
looks
how,
like 10.
how does 1 yard or go into poundage?
Because we have a scale out there.
So
So all the mixed solid waste now gets weighed.
it does.
So this will be, everything would get weighed. in
But
this case.
before, you did it by the yard,
Just for the demolition.
so you just eyed it? They just
They
look
just
at it?
Eyeballed it in
Or,
there.
or they'd send them up to the hilltop and they come back down, well, how much you have? Oh, I think I had about 3 yards.
Wow, that's a great gig if you can get by with it, isn't it?
Well, that's
Well,
what
and-
I'm
and
saying.
that's-
We need a
That's
form,
not- yeah, we
something
need
filled out if they're
some
gonna
proof
bring
or
a
something.
Exactly,
grocery store to
and
Meeker
that's why
County.
there's big benefit to moving to the tonnage measurement.
Oh, yeah.
Get 'em coming.
Because it's the way that it's already being done for other materials, and so it's a constant process for the folks who are out there.
And there's the pictures, we have a scale out there already.
So, yeah, so they'll drive on the scale like everybody else does, and you'll know when they go out to unload. Huh? Well, that makes perfect sense.
So,
But they still have to ask where they're from, so we know which rate to charge.
Yes.
And then, are we just gonna let them say, well, I'm from Litchfield? With no
They should
proof?
know. I'm sure they know what.
where's the material from? Where is the material in your truck
Yeah,
from? That
not
has
the
to be
truck.
asked.
But how are you gonna,
So this agreement with Endurance, if we do a new agreement, will they be the ones asking then? And then that'll take care of these problems, cause we're not there all the time, so we can't. But they are, right? I don't know all the players involved.
And that
And we're-
question was supposed to be asked already.
Right,
Out of county or in-
Right.
have you ever been out there? Do you go in there very often?
no.
Stop in.
That's a real pleasant place.
Well, we've
I'm
had,
just saying, stop in, have a look around.
correct me if I'm wrong, but KRD is still the same owner as Endurance.
Yeah, Stockman's turned to KRD and
And,
KRD.
and that's always been a little bit of a
Yep,
interesting relationship.
whatever you feel like doing that day is what you do, I think. I say it, does that?
My concern, this is a concern I will have moving forward with this. If we start, Endurance is gonna have an issue with us if volume starts to slow down because it's gonna affect their
Well,
paycheck as well.
I
See
bet
what I'm
it will
saying?
slow
If
down.
we raise the tip fees and it slows down the volume coming in there, it's gonna affect the rate.
Well,
volume.
are they paid by volume or paid by the hour? Or paid by contract?
Right now, they're paid by tip fees from the demos.
Tip, so the less coming in is gonna, you see what I'm getting at? Down,
However,
They'll
we will
still
have
be
the money
getting
in hand.
it'll be higher.
Right, so they'll, right, cause they get a small chunk off of what comes in for the demo, but they get everything that goes in for garbage, so
Okay.
they'll still have that vein of garbage, but
I just,
possibly
That's the
not
bulk of
going,
what they handle is the garbage.
okay.
right.
5 to 6 loads a day.
Okay, well, then it might not, but I just, you know, if you start affecting people's,
And I
then
know
it's
you
gonna
want
affect how they,
So
how helpful are they gonna be toward this, is what I'm saying.
just something to think about. Canyon High's at $37. Spruce Ridge is at 63, so that leaves a difference of 26. Let's divide the 26 in half, 13, add it to the 42 and call it 55 for our out of county.
I had 56 in my mind, but, so I, no, I mean, so
Round it
you're
up.
right there, I
Well,
mean,
I just,
Round it up.
you know, we gotta create that blank. If we're gonna make a motion, I thought before we make a motion, get something out there, second
Sure.
it or not. You know, is that too much of a hit in 1 year? Is it?
Well, what's the
Well,
worst
I don't
thing,
like-
what's the worst thing that'll happen?
don't
They'll
like-
quit bringing it in from
Yeah.
out of county?
I think
We
that's
get
the
another year
motivation.
out of
That'd be
it,
terrible.
That should be the motivation.
well, I think when you have a company coming in, getting stuck, dumping their garbage right in the driveway and then hopping on your dozer and moving it themselves,
That's tells
I'm not
you-
real interested in how big a hit.
No, I agree with
I
you.
mean, you
That's
you
what I'm
already
saying.
punched me in the chops.
What's the downside?
I mean,
I don't,
There isn't any.
not on out of county, no. But
On
you
out
do
of,
have to
on
have-
out of county, I
Yeah.
think we have to be
Yeah.
reasonable for our
Yeah.
citizens,
Yeah.
obviously.
I agree.
the whole conversation is to protect.
I agree with you.
citizens of Meeker.
Yep. to protect the property that we've got so many years left, so.
You said that we're going to be renegotiating a contract with the company that operates, that's coming up?
I think we're gonna send out the, submittal for bids, I think to run the whole operation this winter.
Will
We
that,
have talked about that.
Is there a set time that we renew or rebid? Oh, there hasn't been. We've just got this company and we keep using. So Brandy doesn't even see the contract but one time when we sign it, and then that's not good business either.
So the plan is to throw an RFP this winter for
Okay.
bids.
So there's other people that might be interested?
Potentially.
Okay.
I was approached actually last week by a gentleman who wants to buy the whole thing, but he wants to buy it.
Don't not consider that, because
What's wrong with
that's,
that thought?
there's nothing wrong with that idea in my
Well,
mind.
I think,
I talked to Barb about that, and you have to send that out for open bids.
yeah.
Sure you do,
yeah,
but I'm
sure.
just saying, this isn't gonna get any easier.
Well, I think we've entered, I mean, the Demcons of the world have also created a large recycling, I mean, these guys would take, right now you'd have to look at somebody who might take it to a whole new level of recycling, you know, I mean, they have other sites where they can move stuff to, and, you know,
Right, I
a few
agree.
years ago that wasn't there, but that's really an up and coming industry right now, is sorting much more garbage
Yep.
and moving it around, so I
Yep.
think we need to at least take a look at that
I agree.
option.
So that's a good idea.
Environmental liability will always be on the county, because we started the landfill.
Yeah,
site.
sure.
But that would be more monitoring their records then at that point and making sure that, or when.
Environmental monitoring like what's going on right now currently at the old site.
Right, well, actually, the old site, I don't believe that we're responsible for anymore, because that was given to the state, and it's still our land,
Still our
but
land.
it's the state that is required for checking all the monitoring and any environmental concerns that happens to the landfill.
All the enforcement of the material going in and stuff would be somebody else's headache.
the county owns the land and the county owns the business? Or how do we word that? It's currently run by this other company, but do we own the business and they manage it for
Well,
us?
the demo side of it, and we own the building sites, that all the mix all.
We
those
paid
goes
for the
into-
scale, we paid for the equipment that goes, we bought something a few years ago,
Dozer.
dozer.
Oh, we got a couple dozers and a
Iowa they
scraper.
went or whatever, and
Yeah,
yeah.
it's another business that's pretty much renting, or, well, I guess not renting, but being in our building and running their business out of our building, but it's for a service, for a garbage service for the county.
So when you open this up for bids down the road, since we own the land and we kind of own the business, could this be looked at differently instead of they get paid by tonnage? Could we simply say, we will pay you this much a year, whether you're there an hour a day, 12 hours a day, whatever the tonnage comes in, instead of, or even like an hourly wage? How will that bid be considered?
I think these are all things that we need to,
That would
that we don't have answers for yet because we haven't finished that
Yep.
process.
Okay.
I think we need to raise the tip
It's-
fee today.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as I said
Starting to-
earlier, there are other issues out here at the
Yeah.
landfill that we're working
Yep.
to resolve that are separate from the tipping fee issues.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
The tipping fee increase will bring some more
So
questions to
did
light.
we have a motion on the?
Not
table?
No,
yet. Says
not
we-
yet.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the adjust to the demo debris dumping fees at Meeker County landfill to $17 for 4,000 pounds for self-hauler residents, and prorated to $34 per ton when excess of 1,000, $34 per ton for contractors performing work within the county, and $56 per ton for contractors performing work outside of the county, using Paul's logic of going in between.
So how will that be then amended?
It's just, there is no amendment, I'm just
Okay.
changing the 42 to 56 for
He
outside.
just didn't
There was no prior motion, so there doesn't have to
recommend
be
a
an amendment.
motion.
Okay,
And I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
so then this will be rewritten to include those.
It will be
That's the
reflected
motion.
appropriately in the minutes.
Very good.
Oh, gosh, you're
Thank you.
Appropriate.
kinda bougie like that.
You only can say that if you have an MBA, I think.
yes, whatever.
Appropriately in the minutes.
I don't have an MBA.
Okay.
If you're recording it.
Yeah.
So we have a motion, and Steve, did I hear you second, or do we have the
Yep,
second?
yep,
You
you
seconded that?
absolutely did.
All right. We have a motion, it has been seconded. Do we have any additional discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So it's time to break again.
Yeah, I
Oh.
see that.
All right,
And,
that
and I'm
took
not
care
gonna
of that.
prolong this conversation, but they will be doing a better job of establishing who's out of county. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're working
We
on
hope
it.
So,
We've had a few conversations.
Okay, well, continue that, I guess. You'll be able to see the difference, hopefully, when they start doing their job.
But it probably won't get resolved until we
No,
have a
probably
new
not.
thing with Endurance or whomever runs it.
The word will get out on the tip fees right away when they start bidding a job,
Cause what,
Effective when?
yesterday?
January 1. Oh, it says,
Because I'm just wondering if somebody had bid something at our rates without
Oh,
knowing that there was
immediately,
Now.
a upcoming rate fee.
should we do immediately, can we?
Do you owe them?
Well, those are our published rates
Well-
currently.
Well, there's other landfills. I mean,
but I see your point. If they bid a job at this rate and all of a sudden
well, we changed it 3 years ago though, and
Never heard of it,
what,
but I mean,
how do you?
that's, I don't,
Pick a
Brandy, is that
date,
our
that's-
problem?
you're
Probably
gonna-
didn't adjust it this high.
I say no,
did ya?
it's not.
No,
I don't see how it is. If they did that, that's on them.
Okay.
And this is going from yards to tons.
Yeah,
So it may not be as big a jump as you think.
Right.
yeah, the yards is,
Because the big players will take their, like their insulation or light stuff to the yard places, and they'll take their heavier stuff to the ton places.
Yeah,
Vice versa, they'll do that.
yeah.
for sure.
yeah.
That's a good point.
Do they work at all with, is it Redmond, north of town? We don't get all the cement and everything dumped in. Can they haul the cement? They do. See, do they even realize that there's an opportunity to have all of that cement recycled?
They do, but there's a cost for that.
We did that when we tore the
Everything's figured
building
in
down
there.
on
They
our
all know
property,
that
we
part
did
of
that.
it.
Them guys that come out to grind concrete are not cheap, that's a
Not.
big.
We did
that's
it.
a big check.
When we tore our building down over here, we put that in there, that they had to do that with stuff
Recycling.
recycled.
Find recycling places.
All right,
Okay.
so it'll be immediately or as soon as we can publish it?
Yeah, we'll get it published and.
I don't think you're gonna get around stepping on somebody, you know, there might be a bid
what
that's
it
next
is.
summer that's thinking they're gonna bring it here at X.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's just no way you're gonna get around it.
They'll survive.
Plus, like Greg said, it's where are we going to tonnage
They might
versus
do a little-
yards, and they'll do the math quick.
They'll start sorting their loads a little bit and
Oh,
shipping
yeah.
some here and some there.
And that's a good thing.
They'll charge McLeod County a little more for their
Anything else,
destruction.
Greg?
Exactly.
Fred?
All I got on this one,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good luck with your garbage.
Yeah, good luck. Oh, man. Okay. Now, Andrew.
Yes, so this discussion is a follow-up from the work session last week where we had a lengthy discussion about group health insurance and the county's membership in Prime Health, which is the self-insurance pool that most of our employees are members of, with the exception of those covered by collective bargaining agreements in the sheriff's office. So as we discussed last week and is outlined in the attached memo, the current agreement with Prime Health expires at the end of 2022. And if we were to have a desire to go and request proposals, we would need to provide Prime Health with a notice of an intent to leave the joint self-insurance pool by December 31st of this year. So we're here today to discuss that piece of it, if there's a desire to provide that notice of intent. And if so, then we'll have the letter executed and sent off to Prime Health. And Mikkel Johnson is here as well to help answer any questions, if there are questions.
Now, I had asked a question about, we have about 200, are there about 200 employees that
There-
are currently under this healthcare?
We have 240 employees and their beneficiaries who are part of Prime Health.
240.
Yes.
And then how many are outside of this, but are also Meeker County employees?
So we have 125 employees and their beneficiaries who participate in PEEP, which is the plan covered in the sheriff's office.
That's the sheriff's department.
Yes, and then there are also employees, I don't have a firm count on it, but we know that there are employees who elect to not take insurance for one reason or another. They might be
And
on a
that's an
spouse's plan,
option.
they might
Okay.
be on Medicare,
Okay.
we have 196 full and part-time employees who are eligible for health insurance. And obviously that number doesn't add up to the two others that I provided because those numbers include beneficiaries as well. So children, spouses.
I see. All right, so we're primarily today contemplating the 240.
Correct.
Or 240 figure. Okay. How come the sheriff's folks don't join in? They like to do their own thing? They're a separate union, I would imagine? So
Yeah, years ago my understanding is they'd elected to move to PEEP, which they're allowed statutorily to do because of costs. The cost of the county's health insurance plans we were seeing fairly large increases, and they made the decision to move over to the state administered plan, which is at a lower cost. However, it's a HMO plan rather than a PPO plan, which has some more restrictions in what you can use the insurance, or how you can use the insurance.
have we visited with them to see if they want to join in to make our,
It is something that gets brought up every 2 years as
every-
part of negotiations, and Steve or Mikkel can talk about it, but my understanding is there has not been a great desire.
I would be surprised if the employees wanted to do it, but maybe I'm wrong.
employees? What do you mean, Bill?
The other employees,
Departments.
their departments that on our PEEP, I'm not sure they'd wanna go, it's more of an, do you think?
We have not heard from the PEEP people that they have any interest in moving, during negotiations at least.
Would employees be interested in moving to PEEP?
We've had, discussions with during negotiations where non-PEEP groups have asked about PEEP. We were still in the contract with Prime Health at that
Right.
time. So that was our response, is that we were still under contract with them. They have asked about it. If they did want to go, they could under statute. We haven't seen that.
Are there advantages to having more numbers? Like when you look at other insurance companies, if you come in with 25 employees, do they say, well, this is the rate? Or if you come in with 350, do you get this rate?
All
There are
about the-
some of
There's
those factors.
definite advantages to have larger pools here.
It's all about the claims.
Yep.
The bigger
Yeah.
the pool, the more likely it's spread out, is what I think.
That's absolutely right. So I think it's once you cross 50, you go into a large group,
A different.
which is where they
Correct.
stop looking at certain individual factors of the people who are in there, and they look solely at the claims within that group.
Okay.
And so, but the more people you have paying in, the higher probability you have of people who are healthy, who are paying in. And so you're not, what we've talked about consistently throughout this is that medical loss ratio number,
Okay.
where you want it to be below 100%, because then you have people who are paying in more premiums than they are paying out claims. And so if that number goes above that, then you have to be charged higher premiums to make sure that you have more premiums going and paying claims, because those are premiums, the premiums are what pay the claims.
Sure. Okay.
I just lay out what I think in terms of all this, and then I'll let it go. I don't have much more to add from what I said at the work session. It's just, I feel like the county has an obligation just to price check Prime Health after 5 years, knowing that we're gonna sign another 5 years without any caps or any wellness. Usually a lot of the other insurance companies use a wellness and things in terms of like prevent rather than treat, which makes sense to me. I mean, even though I'm not the poster boy for that at all by any means. You just ask my wife. But I do think it's just a prudent thing to price check Prime Health at this point. I understand the percentages that were shown versus Southwest and versus Prime Health in terms of that, but it all depends on where you started at your premium. In this unique time with, like, I think Beth has said more than once, that the insurance companies are a little more flush with money, that maybe there are some potential deals out there. I'm not saying there will be. I don't know, chances are we may end up going with Prime Health anyway, knowing that there's two people on that board. I feel it's a very, it's a good risk to notify them, because I feel like they are gonna accept this because they understand the pool situation. And the other factor is knowing that Renville are leaving, and they, I think, came into the pool claims low. Is that true? They're a little more lower on the average in terms of claims. I don't know what that is now, but
There was some disagreement
I
on their board about even coming in at all. So they
they're on the
they came in at a higher rate than they were paying when they came in.
right,
You're right.
because of they had lower claims.
Yep.
So, but
And I don't know why they're leaving.
I don't know if that pool
But
means that they're gonna
in
be.
my mind, when I feel like Health Partners might be part of that now, since they bought out the hospital, but I don't know why Renville is leaving. I have no idea.
And it's really, it's really has no, I mean, the reflection is that the pool will shrink because of Renville, period. And there's no additional entities coming in, because I think I asked Andrew, one entity came in during the 5 years and then one left, with Renville Hospital leaving, and was it Pipestone or
Yeah,
something?
Pipestone Medical Clinic
Came
facilities came in.
So
Yeah, other counties have expressed interest over time about joining the pool, and has not occurred at this point. But I know they had several inquiries this year, and I imagine they'll probably have inquiries again next year as well.
Well, I think we have some counties waiting to get into Prime West that Matt and Jim feel will probably be interested in Prime Health. But they've been putting them off for 2 years, trying to get them into Prime West. Candy, and I can't name them right now, Candy Ohio's one. Yeah, but it depends on the
DHS.
the DHS, that's what they've been struggling with they've already paid money to get into Prime West. So they think there'll be some more players involved when they get in. Could be wrong.
One, are you?
I just a little bit
Go ahead.
more, and then
Yeah,
I'm
no.
done, basically. And like I said, I understand the whole pool mechanism, why you decided to do Prime Health. That part makes sense. The only part I understand why Prime Health wanted a 5-year contract, but as far as a business goes, no businesses would wanna do that long without any caps. And I just think it's a good, right timing to just price check them, knowing that we're gonna get accepted back into Prime Health, knowing that, Beth and Andrew are on the board. And I don't think they want that pool to shrink.
Of course not.
And I think it's a good calculated risk to price check it. That's all I gotta say.
Well, and I would, kind of piggyback off of that one, I kind of like, I think it was Hubbard County, I like I'd propose that we make a resolution that every 5 years you go and price check, and then it's just automatic. There's no emotion into the equation, it's every 5 years we're gonna go out, that's good for the taxpayer who's paying the bill, it's good for management, and it's good for the employee, that we go out and price shop a little bit, and if it's just a scheduled thing that we do, then whoever our vendor is, whether it's Prime Health or whomever, they know that, Meeker every so many years is gonna go out and shop the market, and it also puts pressure on the market then, on our, supplier to keep their pencil sharp. I mean, it's just good business practice in my mind. So that's kind of what my long-term thinking on it. I think I'd like to kind of copycat a little bit of Hubbard's policy there and just have a resolution. They would just go out and
So
check.
is Hubbard leaving?
I think they're just
Because Bill
scheduled.
said he was certain that Hubbard was leaving. When I went to Prime West and talked to the commissioner, she certainly was not certain that Hubbard was leaving.
Okay, I don't
But
know
said
that.
day, no,
I
Hubbard,
just,
from what I understand, Hubbard's leaving, and I would be surprised if they.
I didn't
But,
hear
so
that,
my question, and I'm not gonna get into a lot of this either, cause you know how I feel, and nothing's
Mhm.
changed since I was up there, so. But, so every 5 years, we're gonna look, well, what, I can tell you this, I've talked to insurance people, we're gonna get a good quote, and they're probably gonna guarantee it for 2 years. And then it's gonna go up, and we're not gonna have any control about how high it goes up, because we're not at the table. So you're not saying we gotta wait 5 years to look then, you're just saying we can if we want. So
Well,
I
and
mean,
we
if
could
we're
set-
with Blue Cross, and in 2 years, they raise it so, and I'm just picking them out of the air, then we wanna have the ability to get out of there. So that's why I don't like that kind of an agreement either way. I mean, if we decide today that we're gonna look, then we're gonna decide to look. And we can do that. The only thing is with Prime West, we'll have a penalty if we don't wait out the next 5 years, true?
Correct, yes.
And the penalty is,
I can't, it's a dollar amount it's a formulated.
Renville had to pay it,
Yes.
because I think Health Partners ended up paying it. Well, Renville Hospital had to pay it, I take that back, they sold to Health Partners. And then Health Partners didn't wanna pay their penalty, and of course, Health Partners put the hospital employees on there, they sell insurance, so. And they finally did pay though.
Correct,
I
yes.
believe,
It was
but it took.
about $200,000.
Yeah. So,
You make a good point. I have a question on that. So if we, hypothetically, if we did Blue Cross Blue Shield, like Beth said, for 2 years, they had rate caps, right, for those 2 years. So we knew where the cost is.
Right.
That third year, they went up, whatever, 15, 20%, whatever. I'm just hypothetical.
right,
We can still go back and then say, okay, we did it. We got burnt a little bit this last year. What does Prime Health want in terms of that? Right? And have another 5 years?
well, I'm not so concerned about if it's Prime Health, my concern
No, but
is, when I was talking about the letter, I don't think we should have a resolution like that. We have